the seagulls follow the trawl, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. You know what time it is. The team know what time it is. Of course, it's Friday. It's just after 9 p.m. So there's only one thing for us to do. Let's hop in that DeLorean and start time traveling. Head back to 2010, 2011. Of course, Neil Lennon's first full season as manager. It's going to be an exciting one tonight. As you can see, folks, we've got a three-man team joining me as well tonight and a new face on Bustalgia, you may have noticed. So first and foremost, I'll go around the table. Russell Boyce, how the devil are you, mate?
Oh, yes, mate. This season's got loads of good memories. Great period in my life. Loved this sort of football. There was a great point made by a guy called Robbie on Twitter earlier, and he compared this season with obviously the anticlimax that we'll talk about once it gets there at the end, but he compares it to that Tommy Burns season when we only had one defeat. And I'm like, it's a great point that it was rock and roll football right from day one to the final day of the season. It was rock and roll football. And both those seasons, you know, we stayed right to the end and gave that team a standing ovation despite not lifting the SPL trophy. So a lot of similarities with that. I just think this evokes loads of brilliant memories in my life personally, and more importantly, without taking a Thursday afternoon, you know, stroll down a personal memory lane. But you get that one, Phil. And more importantly, it reminds me of what was, I think, a team that Celtic were back this season.
Yes.
Celtic were back big time. And under the guise of a guy who was my hero when he was playing, as I've said before, the only name and number I ever had was
Lennon 18.
Was Lennon 18. So to see him in the managerial dugout as Celtic boss seemed too good to be true that he would do well with it. And what an impact he had in the Thunder season, mate. Looking forward to it big time.
It was. Well, just like the Thunder was back, as you can see in the bottom right corner there, folks, Stevo Matt is back on the bus after a phenomenal debut last week, Steve. Well done, mate. Brilliant show.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
And welcome aboard the Bustalgia time machine, mate. Are you happy to be here?
Aye, honestly, buzzing. What I'll say is good way to kick off the weekend. You know, get a clear weekend. I'm off. kids are away tomorrow, so I've got a semi-final to watch and house to myself. I will say that I've invited my mate round, but we'll see if he comes round. Hopefully he does. But no, listen, as I says, before you guys asked me to do this, I'll be honest, Bustalgia's always been the sort of highlight of the week for me, show-wise. And as you know, I try to watch it any time it was live, and if I couldn't, I'd catch up with it. So, do you know what I mean? I hope it's buzzing for it, and I hope it's a case of a good show, and no, don't meet your heroes, and make a canter of it. So
you'll be all right. You'll be
fine, Steve. You'll be absolutely fine, mate. So welcome aboard. And of course, what would Bustalgia be on a Friday night without this man down here over in Canada, in Vancouver? It's our very own Canada's favourite Tim, Liam Greenlaw, mate. How are you doing?
How's it going, guys? Good.
Yes,
Liam. Going to bring the thunder to the Rocky Mountains today. We promised the thunder, right? The day where we bring the thunder is Neil Lennon. Is that it? Na.
Thunder.
I love that. I love that part of Celtic. You know. I'm looking forward to this. Steve, hey, great to have you on. I chatted to you once backstage, and hey, welcome to the bus, man.
Cheers, mate.
You're double shifting.
Yes. You get overtime for the Friday night, by the way, Steve. You'll be glad to know, mate.
None of this stuff where we'll settle you gently. Boys is throwing you into all the big games. That's why you're here today, right?
That's it. You know it. Throw them in the deep end, mate. Throw them in the deep end with the best.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's going to be a good one. And I say what we've touched on already, even though maybe the season didn't end how we wanted it to, or how that team probably deserved. Seems to be a lot of fond memories already in the chat. I can see people talking about this season quite fondly. So it should be a fun one as usual. But first and foremost, as a designated driver tonight, I must obviously do the mandatory. So, dear viewer, I've got a question for you. Do you like Celtic? Do you like real fans talking pish about the game? Maybe if they're in the pub or in a supporters bus. Do you like to see a bit of character on screen? No agendas, no wannabe journalists. Do you like frustrating trivia that makes you want to put your fist through the screen at times? Well, if you do, lucky you, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button and you'll get all of that and much more into your YouTube inbox on the regular, because, yeah, we put out a lot of content that is filled with all that sort of stuff. And while you're at it, you can smash that like button. You can get involved in the chat. And, of course, you can share the Boise Bus link on social media because, yeah, as I say, it's all that good stuff that helps the channel out massively. So it's much, much appreciated, guys. So,
yes.
And also, guys, speaking of trivia, I just mentioned it there. Would you like a trivia question to start the show?
We're resigned to it now. We're resigned to it, Phil, as opposed to, this is like sometimes I drift in and out the conversation on Bustalgia because literally I'm like in my head going, who the fuck was our right back for fucking South Korea? Come on, Boise.
You know
what I mean? No.
He's topical tonight because obviously he joined this season, so it's interesting that he came up there. But yeah, tonight's trivia question, guys, it's a good. As you know, it's always in some way connected to the subject matter tonight. And of course, tonight we're talking about the 2010-11 season, a very significant one, because that was a season that a man walked through the front door at Celtic Park and forever wrote himself into folklore. Yes, I'm talking about super agent himself, Dudu Dahan. Because this was the first season that we became aware of him. Good. As you know, since 2010, Dudu Dahan has had his hand in many Celtic transfers. So I'm looking for the names of
all of them.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant question. How did you come up with this? It's a great question. I think you can get a few.
Whenever you hear the name Dudu Dahan, you just think of Celtic. They go hand in hand and say he's written it in Celtic folklore forever. The go-to agent for Peter Lawwell and Neil Lennon. This was the first season that we experienced them. So, to clarify, I've got 10 names. I thought there was more.
10? Jesus Christ, was it that many?
Aye. There's one on it particular, and I'm like, really? I can't find any sort of real proof. So there's a contentious one.
Keep it in there,
but the other 9 are definites. I've even got like some photographic proof which blew me away when I looked up on Google. I was like, I can't believe he was his agent, but I can't believe that he was behind that deal. So yeah, Dudu Dahan is the subject.
Got 5 already. I've got 5. I've got
He
half
brought
of
us
them.
plenty of doo-doo anyway.
Oh, he certainly did. He certainly did.
Some good names as well, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a couple of good names
Mhm.
I've got already. I know.
Yeah. So
This
that's
is
tonight's
interesting.
subject. I bet you weren't expecting that one to be the
That's a
topic of the
great
trivia
question.
tonight.
I don't know how you come up with this shit.
Oh man,
You've got time in your hands, mate. Time in your hands.
Too much. Way too much. But let's get into it, guys. Now that we've done all the formalities and all that stuff, then let's get into it. Summer of 2010. As it turns out, we've actually been in this time period quite recently, because we usually did the World Cup 2010 as a show. So from my point of view, good bit of copying and pasting going on. So that saved me a bit of time this week. So that was quite handy. But of course, our World Cup shows don't get as many views as the Celtic ones. So obviously for the benefit of those who didn't catch them, we'll obviously run through it again of what happened. So as usual, football winners, I always start with them. Champions League winner, obviously the big trophy in the summer. And it was Jose Mourinho's all-conquering Inter Milan side. It was the treble winning one, which had Wesley Sneijder in the middle of the park pulling all the strings, Diego Milito, Eto'o, and I believe Gordon Pandev up front. Is Pandev still playing? I know he scored at the Euros in 2021.
No, he's retired after that.
Retired now.
That was like his final curtain call.
Okay.
But that again, though, that team, it's it's not about the players, is it? There's one reason, it's Jose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he just decided, watch me do this again. It's frightening. Like a phenomenal achievement that he did that winter. Having got
Inter were rotten. Inter were rotten for ages.
He got rid of their best player, Ibrahimovic.
Aye.
Yep.
He brought in, what he did was he got 40 million euro, which I think folk in the UK thought was a fair price for Ibrahimovic, because in the UK they had this mad perception he wasn't all that good, which is just funny, right? Because he came at 35 and blew their silly league away. Do you know what I mean? With a pish Man United team. Anyway, they got 40 million, and he brought in, as part exchange, Samuel Eto'o and
good signing,
a guy that we're familiar with, Thiago Motta.
Thiago Motta, yep.
Man, that big Rab Douglas knows him pretty well.
He does. Thiago Motta was the superstar shithouser in the semi-final against Barca, if I remember right.
Yep. The guy who got Douglas sent off.
He did that,
Even though Douglas did nothing.
But I remember the semi-final, they played with Barca, and to get to the Champions League final, and Thiago Motta caused quite a stir that night. Winded up
Mourinho running with a finger at the new cap, though, was too good. Like he'd scored the goal.
Aye.
That's he didn't even score. He just ran on the pitch celebrating. I loved that. Absolute shithousery at its best. And that'll go, again, history will be kind. He'll retire and folk will start talking about his Porto Champions League win and his Inter Milan Champions League win and going, Guardiola couldn't have done that. That's the only, and that's what it will come down to. That's when the debate will get fair. But because he's still managing and he's got the dinosaur tag now, he won't get the credit yet. But there'll come a point where he'll either die or he'll retire, and suddenly it'll be like, how the fuck did he do that with that Inter Milan team in 2010? Like, how? It's amazing. And he won the treble that year as well, by the way.
He won the Italian League and the Italian Cup, and so they beat Bayern Munich in the final in Madrid, beat them 2-0. Milito scored both the goals at the Bernabeu. And the Europa League, there was a surprise finalist in the Europa League, because it was the year, of course, that Fulham got all the way to the final, but they came up a little bit short. They lost Atletico Madrid in the final. Diego Forlan scoring both the goals. But I can remember Fulham along the way beating Juventus in quite an epic game at Craven Cottage. Bobby Zamora was terrorising the Juve defence.
It was a hype job, but wasn't it? I mean, like, even though they done so well, like, I don't know, you just didn't ever really feel like they were going to win. You know, it just didn't seem doable.
Aye.
Another good manager, Roy Hodgson. Aye.
The Owl.
Nay fool.
Now, what he says is like, now don't be taking the piss now.
But Hodgson, Hodgson did that with it. Was it Damien Duff, Danny Murphy, Zamora,
Simon Davis, Welsh midfielder with curly hair.
Simon Davis,
yep.
Dempsey, Hangeland at the back, a Chapman legend 10 years before.
Oh my God, yeah.
So you signed him when he was 19, and he went on to be a player in the game. And then 10 years later, you know, the prophecy was right, and he's in a Europa League final with Fulham.
Oh man, I remember it well. And say getting to the final, say Fulham a massive outsiders. But after they beat Juventus, there was a sort of aura around them where it was like you just felt like they're going to do this somehow. You know, they're going to get to the final. But Atletico Madrid beat them. Was Simeone in charge of Atletico Madrid at that point? Because he's been around for ages at Atletico.
I don't think so.
There's a question now.
Aye.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, I don't. No. Sure.
Was it Falcao era? Was Falcao there?
No, it's Forlan they've got just now as the main man. He leaves and then they bring in Falcao.
Falcao next.
And then does Aguero replace Falcao? They've got this run of like strikers that leave and they replace them with somebody just as good or better, you know. But it's Forlan who then goes to the World Cup in 2010. But we've recovered already with that rather controversial Uruguay side with Louis up front with him. So
another shit house of football.
Yeah. There's shithousery and then there's him though. He's a fucking fanny.
Big time. So we'll move on to the domestic leagues around Europe, the main ones, and obviously in Scotland, Liam, it wasn't the happiest of times for Celtic. As much as I don't want to talk about it, but it's relevant to this show tonight. Obviously, the Tony Mowbray experience was not much fun, was it? Neil Lennon finished the season with the last 8 league games, but he did blow it in the Scottish Cup. Won 8 league games out of 8. Lost to Ross County in that semi-final. But the Tony Mowbray experience, Liam, it was summed up by that look at the St Mirren when they went 4-0 up. You just knew his jotters are out tomorrow morning.
Aye, and quite rightly so. What a disappointing manager he was. I mean, there was expectations for him coming in. Jobs he'd done with Hibs and all that. Think what he might get the team. I thought that transfer window he had, I remember me and my mate going, Robbie Keane, like some of the players that came in, we thought, wow, this is good. This is good.
It was a January window, though, was it? It was a wee bit a little too late, wasn't it?
Well, anyway, we'll see how it was. And at the end of that season, you know, it felt like the end of Neil Lennon's last season, that one. I wasn't sure where we were going. The team looked like we were going to go into the wilderness years for a while. And then see what happens.
So the Moga thing, honestly, that's bleak. I can't believe we've came at the tail end of that. Might not have worked out, but as you said, it just seemed like it was going to be a brilliant fit. Like, and then all he done was just tear apart the team and bring in dog shit. Like, that's the way I can put it.
Yep.
He didn't seem
destroyed that team, didn't he?
He didn't seem to have a passion like the way Neil Lennon could charge a team or engage with the press or even with the fans as well. I think the thing that hurt him most was that we'll just take it on the chin. We're
you don't want that.
Upper lips, brown brogues, pinstripe shoot again. You're talking to the bank team, you know.
See with Mowbray, see on reflection, his career's not been that great anyway, has it? I mean, you know, he's never really.
Had he got promoted with West Brom? Is that what he'd done?
He just professionally relegated with them.
I think he got them promoted though as well. Did he not?
He
won the championship. In fact, I think he won the championship with West Brom.
You know, the Hibs stuff aside though, and that all right, fair play. You know, with a championship, but it's a different ball game up here. I know that's a cliche to throw out, but you know, it's really sink or swim, and it just didn't happen. I mean, even Hibs was all right, but you know, it's good. You know, flash in the pan almost, wasn't it?
It was strange because he's so synonymous with one of the most, you know, iconic things in Celtic's history, the huddle.
The huddle, yes.
And you thought this could be written in the stars. He's shown enough signs at Hibs. He's went down to England. I think he won the championship. I could be wrong, but I think he won it and got relegated then for the Premier League. So he got relegated for the Premier League, and we've got him, but he got relegated. Let's be honest, doing the Ange thing, you know, getting plaudits, not points, right? That's the truth.
Managerially, kind of, all right, he's done better, but it reminds me of being like a Paul Lambert type or an Owen Coyle, where there's a wee flurry, and that looks brilliant, and then the rest it's just like, no.
Yeah. Funny enough, we approached Owen Coyle that summer.
He has his moments in the sun, and then it just doesn't really work out.
See the chin thing as well with it, you know, taking on the chin. I remember him saying that. Do you remember the other thing he used to do notoriously was say the word football about 100 times at every interview? Well, the football cage and the football pitch, and then you know once you get the football, they've got to do things with the football in the football match. I was like, stop.
Is he a weird Dutch guy now? Aye.
No, he's not from the Eredivisie. That would be different. That would be football. with Ottoman. But he would say football all the time. But you like got a bet on us on how many times you can say the word football team and the football pitch and the football players. I'm like, shut up with the word football.
I'm going to be petty, man. I mean, it was synonymous with Celtic and Huddle and all that, but he looked like fucking Russell Gummidge, man. I mean, come on, you can't have that as your manager.
You talking about me?
No.
I used to get that all the time.
His body language said a lot, because we'd be maybe losing a game, he'd be standing on the sideline, just like leaning against the bench and just no animation or nothing. And it's just like, that speaks volumes when the manager isn't getting animated and try to give instruction to the player. That's always a worrying sign.
It was all the folded arms and hands in the pocket stuff.
And sometimes this is the thing. Sometimes you get ridiculed for being too animated, i.e. the manager we'll talk about today. Oh, it's a wee bit of... But you know what? Give me someone that looks like they care and puts the heart on the sleeve every day between someone who looks... Maybe they're just trying to go, it's not a good look to see me panicking. Well, to me, it's also not a good look to see that you're not bothered for losing. I want you bothered. And if that means sometimes you showcase too much emotion, at least I know you're invested. At least I know you care. And I think sometimes you've got to let the mask slip a wee bit. You know, don't get me wrong, Lennon ripped his off every single game. But sometimes you need to let the mask slip a wee bit, to let the fans in a wee bit to your emotions. Shows a wee bit of your personality, because that's how we all view it. We're all fans. We want to see a bit of the inner fan come out in a manager. Look at it this way. Postecoglou, you could argue, shows very little through a game. But see, after the match, he lets the mask slip a wee bit.
Yeah.
They're lapping it up. And that's why fans go mental, because you go, see, he does care. Do you know what I mean? And I think Mowbray was too far the other way. And I'm sure he had, by the way, all the same emotions all these managers that have shown emotion in the past have. I think he was just trying to keep his cards too close to his chest. He was in fear of letting himself become parody almost. And I'm like, there's a fine line, don't get me wrong, but you played it too safe. And without the fans having any insight into how you're feeling personally, we're going to judge it as a lack of interest or a lack of getting it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it came down to.
What I think that is with him is, see, as a personality, like, you know, he was a big hard down and dirty defender, right? And I don't know, I just think maybe when these guys transform into management, they try to reinvent themselves as being this cool, formal, stand back, you know, guy. And I think that's what he done, because he certainly wasn't like that as a player, all right? He was maybe a wee bit more mild-mannered, but he kind of stripped it back and projected this image that he thought a manager should look like.
It's weird. And it almost feels as well with him like he was like always tempering expectations. That's what it came down to me. And I'm like, that's almost like a backhanded way of saying, if we get beat, look, I was never too up when we were doing okay. And I'm like, that's a bit of a cop-out as well.
I see, it's the wrong type of management style. You know what you have to, when you have a fan base as ferocious as us, you have to change your management style. That difference between I'm no bothered or I'm just going to ride this one out, our expectations are a lot different than that. And probably outside of Celtic, he's never played for another club like that or been involved with another club where you're expected to win every single match. And that's the difference. And no everybody can do it. I think Ange's saying it. I don't think Ange's ever been in that situation where he's had to win every match before. But now he's in that and he sees that as well too. But he's managed to manage your expectations. And that is a huge, huge bit of management. Right?
I agree with that. Yeah.
So
that's a great point.
And just a quick thing I want to say just quickly in the comments, Chunks, I am aware you put in a £5 donation about 5 minutes ago, but the message that's attached to it, I don't think I want to read it out loud and put it on the screen because, Russell, cast your eye over it. I don't think we want to put that vision in people's heads, do we? No, we don't. But we appreciate the gesture nonetheless, Chunks.
Thank you, Chunks, mate. Legend.
Legend as always. But
so he's putting 2 fivers, for fuck's sake, Chunks.
He's robbed a banker, son. He's like that, and he
He just loves the bus. Chunks just loves the bus, mate.
He does. But the Scottish Football Season say Lennon came in, replaced Mowbray after a disastrous time. Rangers won the league on a canter. Scottish Cup probably should have been us that won it, but we blew against Ross County. Dundee United picked up that. And in the League Cup, Rangers won that one, beating St Mirren with 9 men on the park. Just embarrassing, St Mirren. Fucking embarrassing. You know, they were up against, what was it, Danny Wilson and Kevin Thompson both got sent off, and they still couldn't beat Rangers. Fuck's sake, man. You know, for something that doesn't happen nowadays. Rangers getting players sent off. They get 2 players sent off in the World Cup final. But no.
Was Thompson playing for them at the time?
He got sent off. He was one of the red cards. He was. That was his last season, I think. But yeah, Rangers picked up 2 trophies that season.
Rangers then?
He goes to Middlesbrough, I think. Maybe this season.
Cardiff?
No, I'm talking about Stevie Thompson.
Kevin Thompson.
Kevin.
Stephen Thompson could very well have been playing from that point. Maybe he was at Burnley under Owen Coyle.
Burnley or Cardiff?
One of them.
But Kevin Thompson. I forgot he played for them.
Aye, he's one of the Kevin Thompson gets sent off in that final. I said Danny Wilson.
Just love footy for a while. And by the way, Shy, I'm a really good guy.
Really good guy.
I'm like, why do you always say you're a really good guy? Shut up with that, Pat. Ask anyone, Like, I demand the best of everyone, but I just love my footy. Footy? Oh, shut up.
That's up there with folk that say stuff like, I'm not racist because, but it's that conversation.
If anyone knows me, like, they'll tell you I'm a really great guy, like, I'm good to be around. And I'm like, what are you even on about? And like Cypher in that lap up, they link him at every job going. Barcelona job comes up. I think Kevin Thompson. I'm like, what has he got on you? This is the ex-Celtic Hearts manager. Fuck off.
Do you remember there was the talkie him temp Rangers manager rebat? That would have been interesting.
I probably linked by open goal. I don't get it. He's got no chance. But he's known to be I think he is a bit of a prick. This is the guy who challenges John Collins, remember, when he's 21 years old. Collins
That's right,
who are these wee pricks? He's like, get to fuck. I'm still a better player than you. You know what I mean? And that was all that Kevin Thompson. He was very jealous, I think, of John Collins being the main man. Put it that way. And Kevin Thompson didn't like that very much. He thought he was the best thing since sliced bread, and he did like 60 minutes good for Hibs. You know what I mean? John Collins is like, I used to play with Thierry Henry, Thuram, etc. at fucking Monaco, you clown.
And John Collins is sitting there with a diced up torso and everything, flexing.
John Collins must have been like, who are these?
Who's this guy?
It's embarrassing though. They don't want to train hard and then come tell me they don't like my methods. When all they've done in their life is fucking, with me at charge, won a League Cup. Do you know what I mean? John Collins and Kevin Thompson, give me peace.
If he has to keep hammering home he's a good guy, then that means he's not a good guy.
Really good guy.
Good guy.
Really good guy. Loves his footy. Loves the footy.
Well, over in England, down south, Carlo Ancelotti's Chelsea, they won a double. They won the league and they won the FA Cup, beat Portsmouth in the final. Man United picked up the League Cup, beating Aston Villa 2-1 in the final. One of the very few highlights of Michael Owen's time at Man United. He scored in that final. And across the continent, say Inter Milan, they won the Italian league. Barcelona picked up in Spain. Bayern Munich in Germany, no surprises there. Marseille, France, Benfica won it in Portugal. And it was, as we've already mentioned about the Eredivisie, it was a Steve McLaren, his FC20 side, who was covered in the...
He's the only guy who does a better accent than me.
Yeah. He became Wolfsburg manager and didn't do a German accent, interestingly enough. Yeah.
Why do they do stuff like that? What is wrong with these people? Liam, have you ever embraced the Canadian accent when you've been over there a while? Have you ever found yourself talking like Tiger Woods? Sorry, I mean Alistair Johnson.
Aye. Do you know when I noticed that? When I was living in Bulgaria, and I'd start talking to people, and I'd be like just start to speak Bulgarian, and then the backup was like sort of like this weird broken English Canadian accent that came out of nowhere. Yeah, it comes all the time. See, if you're sitting around loads of Canadians, you end up talking like them. It's cool.
You do that Canadian thing that they do where they always go upwards at the end and everything sounds like a question.
What do you mean, man?
Man.
Hey. That all the time as well.
But the thing is, that's you picking up a twang. Steve McLaren's talking like a Dutch person trying to speak in English. How would you pick that accent up?
Fucking mental. What was worse though? Was that or Joey Barton worse?
Joey Barton.
Well, the worst thing is Joey Barton has since tried to say that was all a wind up, like that was an in joke. Like I told my pals I would do that. I'm like, that is named, like, if you believe that, you believe anything. He just made a pure titty sell.
He
It's
did.
that simple. Chunks is back in again, by the way.
Chunks, man. What
He
you like?
says Chunks loves the bus nearly as much as our resident zombie, talking about Bob, but that fool hops the bus. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't get a know where a ticket. He wouldn't know where a ticket was unless it's the.
Oh my goodness. Typically, Chunks in my Chunks
Abort,
faces.
abort.
He likes you though, Liam.
Oh, good. Cheers, Chunks. I'll send you my personal e-transfer number soon.
But Steve McLaren.
Fucking hell.
But see, putting that aside, he's actually not a terrible manager, but that was a pretty. I mean, he's won a league with FC 20, who don't win the league in Holland. It's always Ajax, Feyenoord, PSV Eindhoven. So he broke the sort of like the. I don't know what we've got a monopoly, a duopoly. What's for free? A triopoly? I don't know. But yeah, there's always 3 teams that win the league in Holland, but he managed to win it with FC 20. So fair play to him. I say he goes on to Wolfsburg after this, but he will always be remembered, unfortunately, as FC 20 for the Steve, the Eredivisie. And also we covered it as well. The World Cup, of course, happened. The small matter of the World Cup happened in 2010, held in South Africa. And it was won by Spain. Now, Russell, I know that you love the big transfer stories part of Bustalgia. So the big stories this time, without all the transfer fees, if you happen to know them, then feel free to chip them in. But I've just brought up some highlights. We mentioned them earlier. Zlatan Ibrahimovic's ill-fated move to Barcelona was over after a year. He was moved to AC Milan initially on loan. On a 1-year loan deal. It'll become permanent eventually. An amazing player, obviously, but it didn't work out.
40 games, 22 goals, 18 assists, I think was his record at Barcelona.
A boss. An absolute boss.
But you're told that it didn't work out at Barcelona, so
Mate,
it was politics, wasn't it? It was politics with Messi.
But you're right, though, like the ill-fated spell. I'm sure that was the record. As I say, I've read his, but I think it's 40 games.
Wow.
22 goals, 18 assists. It was
shite
over there.
Fuck off, up the road.
Mental. The best thing is he got subbed off at half-time and Barcelona were 2-0 up and he was not happy. And Barcelona went and finished the game 2-2. So he went back into the changing room and he kung fu kicked the tactics board. But he loves his karate. So
he's black belt.
He's got an impressive one, do you know what I mean? Probably a spinning heel kick, you know what I mean? Boom! And he says, I just looked at Guardiola and I told him, look at me! Guardiola refused to look at him. Never spoke to him again. That was him at the team from then on. And that's what happened. So he then went into pre-season training the next summer. So see before this transfer. And he went, I've maybe been too big for my boots. This is my dream move after all. He says, I'm going to redouble my efforts. So in America, he says, I trained harder than any other player in that like training camp, whatever you want to call it, right? And he's like, try to catch the manager's eye, yada, yada, yada. He goes, the final day of the training camp, manager who's not spoke to me for 3 months now, pulls me in the office and says, you're going to leave, by the way, we've accepted the bid for you. That was it. And he goes, that was the only time he had the backbone to speak to me. He goes, I call him the philosopher. He's got no backbone. He goes, to go from Mourinho to Guardiola, he says, just two completely different, completely two different entities.
Aye. But now he ends up going back to AC Milan initially this summer on a loan deal and then makes it a permanent move after that before going to PSG in the PSG revolution. But of course, after letting Zlatan go, David Villa was the replacement. Safe to say it worked out okay for him at Barcelona. Okay. Yeah, he did all right. Angel Di Maria, he left Benfica to go Real Madrid. It's a deal I think that worked out well. Manchester City's revolution really kicked into gear this summer. They signed Balotelli, they signed Yaya Toure, David Silva, James Milner, and Alexander Kolarov, all for big bucks. Mesut Ozil moved to Real Madrid from Werder Bremen, and Ozil wasn't the only German that Real Madrid picked up that summer. They also signed Sami Khedira from Stuttgart, and a boy who we happened to mention last week who had the world at his feet not too long before this, Robinho, left Manchester City to go to AC Milan. So that was the big summer headlines in terms of transfers. Now just some quick pop culture stuff. Oh, let's see. There's another time. Thank you very much, Chunks. Again, man, you're just... Again, what Stevo says is right.
Got to acknowledge it. Thank you, Chunks, mate.
Mate.
Very
of
kind.
Course, mate. Of course. I always appreciated Chunks, man. You've always got a place on the bus, mate. Always.
Always.
That's going to keep the power on in Boise Towers.
Well...
At Boyce Mountain.
But I'll quickly go through some the old pop culture stuff. Even though I say we went over this a few weeks ago in the 2010 one, but we'll quickly go through because we want to get to the pre-season stuff with Celtic because it's a big one. So obviously, when the season kicked off for us on the 14th of August 2010, we had a 1-0 win up at Inverness. Neo was top of the singles chart. Arcade Fire was top of the albums chart. And if you fancied going to the cinema that day, number one at the box office was the phenomenal Toy Story 3. Excellent film. Fucking enjoy it. I like that one. Toy Story 4, unneeded. Was totally unnecessary. It was okay, but it wasn't needed. But Toy Story 3 was the perfect way to end the Toy Story trilogy. Phenomenal. That was number one at the UK box office. Yeah, Toy Story trilogy. Yeah, man. Hey, man. Fucking Disney Pixar. Good stuff, mate.
I'll be slagging off Toy Story. Listen, I've got his back.
Exactly. Toy Story fantastic. But the fourth one, don't bother with it. Just end on the third one. There you go.
No,
yeah.
You don't have any wins, do you?
I do not, no.
Okay, just how are you watching all these kids' movies?
Disney Pixar's awesome, mate.
It's aimed at adults. It's all undertones of adult jokes.
There is a lot of like
without rudeness
that go over kids' heads.
I'm going to need to sit down and watch the Toy Story trilogy soon,
Trilogy, yeah, man.
I'm missing out.
Aye. See, man, Ryan Taylor's saying Toy Story classic. He knows, man. He gets it.
Absolutely.
He understands, mate. He gets it. Monty coming in with a more graphic one. We're talking about adult jokes. Well, you know. There you go. There's one for you.
Brilliant, Monty.
So what was happening? The old festivals, Tea in the Park was headlined 3 nights by Muse, Eminem, and Kasabian, because Kasabian come up every single time in festivals.
You've seen a trend now.
Black Eyed Peas, The Prodigy, Madness headlined NME, Calvin Harris, Mumford and Sons, and David Guetta headlined King Tut's Wow at 10. Other big acts that appeared included Faithless, Jay-Z, Stereophonics, Paolo Nutini, The Proclaimers, and Biffy Clyro. As for Glastonbury 2010, it was headlined on the main stage over the 3 nights by Gorillaz, say that animated band of Damon Albarn's Muse. Stevie Wonder was also one of the headline acts. Phenomenal. Other big acts that appeared at the festival included Snoop Dogg, Shakira, Scissor Sisters, Faithless, Willie Nelson got the Legends slot on the main stage, Slash from Guns N' Roses, Flaming Lips, Pet Shop Boys, MGMT, and Orbital. Some huge football news. We mentioned this at the time when we did the World Cup show, but again, 2010 was the year that Sepp Blatter stood behind that podium in Geneva at the FIFA conference and announced that Russia would host the 2018 World Cup and Qatar would host the 2022 World Cup. Of course, now the 2022 World Cup is coming on, despite all of the doubt at the time it might actually happen, despite in 2015 the FBI raiding FIFA and deciding that there was all sorts of corruption going on. Nope, the World Cup still happened, and obviously we just saw it finish just a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, that's it now, come and gone. Hopefully, we do not see a World Cup in the Middle East again anytime soon, because I can't.
Where's the next one? America.
The next one,
I'm looking forward to that. Should be good, by the way.
That should be fine.
94 World Cup imagery was top notch.
It was. But there is talk that the Saudi Arabians are going to bid for the 2030 World Cup, and Ronaldo's move to Saudi Arabia is part of that, where he'll become an ambassador for their bid. And that's a worry, because once again, they'll have to play it in the middle of the domestic season because it's too fucking hot to play football in the summer.
Are you sure Ronaldo's going to be the ambassador for Saudi Arabia and not South Africa?
Not South Africa.
No, I don't remember what he said. He signed for them in his first interview. He said some bullshit like, just because I moved to South Africa doesn't mean I've gave on football.
Oh, Jesus. I'm just trying my best.
He's really invested in the project.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's counting the money. But after the Piers Morgan interview, it's just like I just switched myself off as much as everyone else. I didn't even see that interview clip. But yeah, supposedly the deal is part of after he retires from playing, he'll become an ambassador for the Saudi government's bid for the 2030 World Cup. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Please, I don't want another World Cup in the middle of the domestic season. That would be really massively appreciated. And as for 2010, some other big news stories. I covered this at the time we did the 2010 World Cup. But yeah, it was a year of a lot of natural disasters. There was a tsunami in Haiti that killed over 200,000 people. Earthquake in Chile, which obviously resulted in that story where there was miners trapped underground for like months on end before they were eventually saved. All 33 of them survived it as well, despite being underground for weeks on end. I think they made a film out of it as well. And I think I mentioned this at the time when we were doing the 2010 World Cup show. It's the year that the Tories unfortunately got into power in the UK, and we still can't get rid of them because England keep fucking voting for them. Don't be a Tory, folks, as Russell said last night. Isn't that right, Russell? Topical right now this week on the bus.
How many Twitter accounts you got to ask for a square go about politics? I invite anyone to the studio to discuss this with me. One then.
Oh my God. Nah, you're all right. We'll pass.
I've never seen anyone offer anyone a square go on Twitter before in the form of discussing politics in my studio, on my turf. Fucking give peace. Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares,
I'd rather be gaffer taped. I'd rather be gaffer taped to a chair with my kneecaps drilled and be put through that.
Oh, honestly, man.
Any bit of banter, eh? Any bit of banter, he thinks it's all dark and sinister. Ooh, this is has deep connotations below us. Shut up. Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, mate. Speaking of which, by the way, thanks for all the positive feedback on the intro. We obviously put in the Nobody Cares, mate clip at the start because it had to be in there. It had to. It's become an absolute staple of this show. Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate. So thank you. Thank you for all that. It's been much appreciated over the last 24 hours. Now, pre-season roundup, guys. This is Neil Lennon, obviously, first full season in charge. He's got a massive rebuild on his hands because of the Tony Mowbray debacle that we just discussed. It all went Pete Tong for him. But yeah, Lennon, he had 8 league games. He won 8 out of 8. Didn't win the Scottish Cup, obviously, played against Ross County. But despite being a rookie manager, Russell, you've brought us up before, he got quite a bit of backing, to say the least, because the players that we brought in were Gary Hooper, Anthony Stokes, Berham Kayal, Emilio Izaguirre, Daryl Murphy, and Efren Juarez for a wide range of transfer fees. Chad Uri, Charlie Mulgoon, Daniel Mustorovic, and Joe Ledley all came in on free transfers, and Fraser Foster joined on a year-long loan deal in the summer. As the season kicked off, we would also add Freddie Lundberg and Olivia Capel. The less said about them, the better. And in the January window, we would add somebody named Chris Commons. He would do all right in the Celtic Cup.
$300,000 as well.
Yeah, not a bad deal.
Yeah, we'll put it this way. You've got the contrasting Neil Lennon's when he takes the Celtic job. There's 2 examples, and they could not be more chalk and cheese if you tried. The attitude Lennon has to get in the job. Now, funnily enough, albeit I don't think second time round he's worked out with Celtic. First time round, wanted them getting the job. I thought for the caretaker role, yep, fair enough. You'll see us through at the end of the season. But funnily enough, he was still more qualified at that point than he was this time round. He only had 8 games and a Scottish Cup exit to Ross County on his CV as a manager, yet had the courage of his convictions to do it my way or the highway. If you don't take it exactly how I tell you it's going to be, I'll not do the job. And Celtic accepted that and let Lennon bring his own personality into the gig. They let him bring his own staff in to support him, and they let him bring in players he identified that would fit in the mould of what he knew he was going to be like in the dressing room as a manager. Let's make no bones about it. He knew he needed guys that were going to be able to be grabbed by the bollocks and told, fucking moon. Do you know what I mean? Like, lift it here. That wouldn't shy away for that. Second time round, Lennon goes in, a far more experienced manager, still with now a Celtic CV behind him that includes beating Barcelona, 3 league titles, right? Hibs record points tally and record finish in a SPFL, and a championship title. He also goes in there though and takes whatever Celtic offer him. You can't bring in your own backroom stuff. Okay, it's fine. I don't care. And that is why Light Lennon, or Lennon Light, L-I-T-E, is the guy that wasn't the same as the Neil Lennon we see in 2010. For whatever reason, he was more desperate, second time round, than the guy who was 38 years old getting appointed his first ever managerial gig at one of the biggest clubs in the world. I can't get my head around that. I suppose I know how good that job is. I'm desperate to get it. I'll take it on any sort of terms just because I want back in, because I now realise what I had. I suppose there's an element of that. But the reason it was a success first time round is you fucking did it on your terms, Lenny. And that's why you were successful. And that's what worked. And the autonomy he has in the transfer market epitomises the strength of character Lennon showed to a board that we all know is tight. We all know can be interfering. And Lenny's obviously went fucking back off. Do you know what I mean? You're going to need to let me breathe here, and this can work. And I think you look at that volume of players first and foremost that he's brought in. And then I think when you go through the names, how many of them are Lennon production? I think the vast majority. You know, it's a huge. It's just such a mile away from what we then seen happen. You know, when he came in second time, and you know, I think Lennon Productions would have been Ivan Toney. That's a Lennon signing.
Yeah.
And they block it. I don't think he's a Lennon signing. I really don't. I think that's a you know, and I feel, you know, if people that talk about money and stuff, well, the money's going to go up 10 years later. You know, so if Ivan Toney's 6 million, that's the same as you paying 3 million for Hooper 12 years or 11 years before that. I don't think that's all that crazy, a difference. No. And I think you've got to back him when he's got that record there before. And by the way, you've went out your way to make him the successor to Rodgers. So you must rate him. So let him breathe. And why is it the same board that before, when he didn't really have a leg to stand on, to have all these demands or this sort of freedom that he clearly had, they gave him it then. And guess what? It worked.
No. Liam, I'll come to you in this point, mate. What do you make of Chris's comments on the screen? Says here that the board only back a manager after a disaster. Because obviously we're out of the Tony Mowbray era at this point, and they gave Lennon a bit of freedom, a bit of backing. You look at what happened to Ange coming in initially. It was after the Lennon second spell, which had been disastrous. Ronnie Dyler's sort of like, you know, second season, the way it sort of petered out, it wasn't a great finish. Brendan Rodgers certainly got the backing. But when a manager gets a bit of a run of success, the investment seems to go down every season, as we covered when we did the Martin O'Neill season. Despite what he was doing, it seems like the investment went down a step every single time, to the point where the last season, it was a fucking joke.
I mean, I don't think they necessarily go out their way to invest in the squad. It's a necessity at that point, and they have to. I think what they are is they're a board that likes to jump on other people's success. I think as soon as there's a sniff of something going the right way, they're all up back in the front shop window again, you know, letting themselves be known and, you know, oh, we're the board and all that. And then once they've got a bit of success and momentum going, they all want to jump on board and have a wee touch at it, just to get their wee bit in there as well. They're all wanting to show up, prove their value to themselves, their cronies, certainly know the fans. And I think that's what it is. It's like as soon as we got momentum, then they all want to jump back on board again. You know? That's my opinion. I think that's what happened with Neil Lennon. I think they don't know how to steady the ship. They don't know how to come in and fix it and that. But they think by appointing that guy and laying off, they've done their part. Now we can be more inclusive again and get more of our imprint, because we did a great job hiring Neil Lennon. Then we get a great job hiring Ange. What else can we fix? You know? That's the stupid attitude you get for upper management and that.
I mean, seeing you're talking about the signings and each first time round and getting a wee bit of autonomy and stuff like that, right? Not to be shitting on the party here, right? But I think I looked at some of the signings that he brought in, right? What's actually interesting is the vast bulk of them are actually frees. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean that he's he's getting a word on it, but we sold guys outgoing for nearly 16 million. And we spent 10. And the most in his first season. McGinlay'S, he marked the start of the player trading thing. He was the first big signing that we built on. But as a season, not really shit the party. You know, with 5 million, nearly 6 million in profit. I think you look at the fees. We paid 3 million on Suarez, for example, 2.5 for Hooper, and then it was negligible, 1.2 for Stokes and Kyle, and then 600k for Izaguirre. Later on, we'd get Watt for 100 grand and Commons for 300k. So it wasn't big signings, do you know what I mean? It was padded out.
Sound familiar?
But here's the thing, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, you know, we're talking about saying, he got to bring on his own guys. But he didn't, do you know what I mean? We've done it in a kind of way where volume and inevitably the quality of most of these guys came through. That's a fucking masterstroke. But really, it was just no different. Maybe just a better eye for a player.
Are we seeing like the same thing funnily enough, the board look to be given, I mean, I've just fallen in the trap of what I said, given full autonomy. But is Stevo right? Are the reason we think Ange had full autonomy and Lenny has full autonomy because the actual value of the players he's bringing in is so low risk.
Yeah.
Right? That they're like, of course you can get another £1 million signing from Israel. Lenny. That it's like the manager, we look at both those spells. Now, the modern era fan doesn't want to give Lennon the credit they give Ange in the transfer record. Right? But if you actually look at the pieces Lennon was picking up in 2010, right? Let's get it right. That ain't that far away from what Ange was picking up in the summer. In fact, we'd lost 2 league titles in a row by then. And he's up against Walter fucking Smith, regarded as their best manager of all time or second best manager of all time. That's who he's up against. And he's been given, in my mind, full autonomy. But now Stevo says that, you're like, to an extent, because all the fees suited the club.
Do you know the one thing I just want to touch on, because you mentioned about the Tony thing, right, and that being a Neil Lennon production, right? I just want to mirror over the Hooper thing, right? Because for me, he was the kind of proto Hooper. Hooper was the proto Ivan Tony. So see me look at he came to us for Scunny, right? He did 20 goals in 39 the season before. What were the League 2 or something at the time? They were League 1, League 2.
League 1. It wasn't
right. And look at the bill, look at the profile. Young, English, up and coming, good previous record. He then came to us in that season alone. He had 31 goal contributions in 36 in his first season.
Say that again?
He had 31 goal contributions out of 36 games, 9 assists, 22 goals, first season, 2.4 million. And then after that, he was in the team of the season, and then after it, he went on, Golden Boot in 11-12, and he was top goal scorer the following 2 seasons.
Him and Stokes were unbelievable. See, when Commons came in, the 3 of them together, they went to another level. But Hooper and Stokes initially, that partnership.
But see when you talk about that initially, I did my homework as I always do. Liam, did you do yours? I'm joking. I watched the first few videos that Phil said. This is how we line up front at the start of the season. Maloney and Daryl Murphy.
Exactly. But he didn't. What was funny was when I was watching the videos.
Daryl Murphy?
He did sign Daryl Murphy in that summer.
800k.
In the summer just been. So I know he didn't do well at Celtic, right? But hear me out. 800k. Daryl Murphy is ranked 7th best ever striker in the English Championship, which, let's be honest, is on a par, if not better than the SPFL. That on paper, he's ranked 7th, and that was in 442 magazine in June 2022. He is ranked number 7th. He scored 93 goals in that league. He was the record. He won the Golden Boot one season, and he was in the Team of the Year twice, I think. But he is ranked the 7th best ever striker in that league. Now there's good company. See over the piece in the championship, and you go. And Lennon brought him up here. Slap my microphone about it. That's my Lennon coming out. But like he brought him in for 800 grand. Now, okay, it might not work out, but again, you're going. Look at the rest of the stuff Murphy's done in his career, and you go. There was a high chance that could have worked out, and for 800 grand, that's f-all. That is f-all.
I think he thought. I think he saw something in him. To be honest,
yeah,
an unfancied guy that could come up and we can get vigor at yourself and turn it around. Similar profile, but it just didn't work, doesn't it?
I've got something to throw at you, so you might remember this, but was John Park still associated with the club at this point? I remember him getting a lot of praise for unearthing a lot of these players as well. I remember him getting...
He was very much involved at this time.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought that because, Len is definitely involved in a lot of transfers, but I remember John Park's name at the time being very, well praised because of these players he was finding.
See, the most impressive signing, Lennon went for 3 big names and he got 1. But the one he got was actually a relevant big name as opposed to a big name from years gone by. So he went for David James, who randomly won the number 1 jersey for England mid-World Cup in South Africa, right? Because of Rob Green's howler at 40 years old. He went for him. He went for 36-year-old Sol Campbell.
He did,
That's right.
Jimmy Bullard.
Jimmy Bullard. Jimmy Bullard, I don't know if you've seen him on the golf course talking about it.
Yep.
And he said basically his dad scuppered the whole thing. He's raging about it. His dad thought somehow he was going to make Jimmy Bullard 80 grand a week by getting Celtic to pay his full wage and Hull. It's like, but it couldn't even work like that. You can't have two contracts. Doesn't even make sense.
No.
But anyway, they blew it. And that's Bullard's regret. I think he would have been a fucking. See if the bus was around in 2010, he'd have been my chaos. Do you know what I mean? Anyway,
actually,
the one though who was actually the best out the lot in terms of options, because it wasn't on yesteryear's displays or it was or on reputation. It was, this guy is going to, he's a gonna be. And it was Joe Ledley. Joe Ledley was given a tour round the Olympico in Rome.
Oh man!
Wow!
Right, that is a fact. He was offered a contract by Roma, and Stoke City. Now, I know.
Wow, what a contrast!
But you think
how much think Joe Ledley cost?
Well, let's be honest though. Think about the wages. Stoke City can offer a hell of a lot more than Celtic at this point. They're an English Premier League club. Roma can offer a hell of a lot more. Who wins the battle? Neil Lennon. Because Neil Lennon, for whatever reason, I don't know if players like maybe Ledley was the last of that sort of generation where it's like, he's making me feel like really fucking engaged here. Like, I want to do it. Wait till you see the stadium, kid. Come out. Just look around. And he says, that's us up against the Olympico. Like, I would say that'd be pretty impressive to walk around. But it's what Lennon's saying in his ear as he's looking at the stands. Fucking imagine it, mate.
Lennon for a free was him for a free was outrageous.
Unbelievable. And that has to go down to Lennon, Stevo.
Do you know what I was surprised when I was doing my geeking out and search and stuff? Do you know in his entire career, Ledley, his total cumulative fees are 3.5 million. That means he's pretty much been a freebie every team he's been at.
Oh my God.
Imagine getting that every couple of years.
So, yeah, because he was meant to be £6 million, right? If he'd been sold the summer before. And then he basically wound out. I don't think he was happy with the interest that was in him. But like Musa, kind of with the Spurs thing, there was interest there. But if you don't get it over the line, it gave us an opportunity. And I don't know what we were paying Joe Ledley. I would guess, though, it wouldn't be as much as Stoke City and Roma were offering Liam. Do you know what I mean?
Surely not.
I think we took him to Raganos and just said, listen, we've got good Italian here as well.
Rod Stewart in the corner. What's the chances of that?
Give him a cruise. Like, here's all the good clobber. Give me that stuff here.
Aye. I'll say what on you go, Liam. On you go.
Oh, no, it's just like Rome when we've got more Colosseums in Glasgow.
I've mentioned before, but Neil Lennon's tenure, because I think he played central midfield as well, that was his position on the park. He certainly knew a centre midfielder, because at one point in time during his first tenure, you've got Brown, Ledley, Kyle, Key, and Wanyama, the five centre midfield options at the club, and it was like, fucking hell, man.
Well, Brown's name's going to come up during this film.
Yeah.
But I'll tee it up right now. There was two examples of Brown saving his Celtic career. First time it was Neil Lennon that saved it by giving him the captain's armband and telling him, you're going to be more like I was. Yes, still get forward, but you're going to have more discipline in your performances. You know the headless chicken anymore, son. You're not an attacking midfielder. The other, obviously, resurrection of Brown's career was when Rodgers came in after the Dyla era. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But he's had two resurrections, and the first one shouldn't be understated, what Lennon did for Scott Brown initially. Right?
Aye, for a doubt. I mean, we talked about it in the Skelpers episode. There's a lot of influence from Neil Lennon on Scott Brown when it came to especially the games against them. You could see a lot of it rubbed off on Brown. So he had a massive influence on Scott Brown's career. But yeah, he will be featuring heavy tonight because there's a certain celebration that gets invented during this season. So we'll be talking about that at one point. Now, obviously, we just talked about the players coming in. There was a massive revolving door at Celtic at this window. So going out was Aid McGeady, Arthur Boric, Stephen McManus, Marc-Antoine Fortuny, Killian Sheridan, Paul Caddis, and Simon Ferry, all for multiple different fees during the summer. Lee Naylor, Zheng Ji, and Koki Mizuno all left on free transfers. Josh Thompson, Darren Adi, Morten Rasmussen, and Ben
Twice
Hutchinson.
we tried to get rid of him that season. Twice.
Aye, because he goes out in January on loan again, didn't he? But he went out on loan in the summer. And then in January, we punted Jos Højveld, Mark Klossas. Olivia Capo only played 2 games and was basically let go in the January window. So, that was our activity heading out the club during the season. Yep.
very quickly, right? Remember we were talking last week about guys in the strips that he just doesn't look right, like Thompson in a Nike strip. Okay, first 3 games of the 10-11 season, Marc-Antoine Fortuné plays under Neil Lennon.
Looked all right under Lennon.
Him in that Nike top with the collar, I'm like, he wasn't there then, he was gone. He started 2 out of the first 3 games under Lenny and that right wing forward. Stevo, he just doesn't look right. I'm like, no, Fortuné was long sleeves
obviously
with the round neck Nike top.
Obviously, we booted him and get rid of him, but do you remember we chased him? We chased him. He was a big deal, and he came in. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake!
Tony Mowbray spent about 3 or 4 weeks of his first transfer window chasing this guy. Then when he unveiled him, he basically told the press, he's not really a striker that scores many goals. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
You know, so that was the telling you the confidence.
How was he in Lenny's team? I can't imagine how Fortuné at any point was part of Lenny's, you know.
He played in a few of the European qualifiers.
But no, in the league. He played in the league, mate.
The last game he plays is when we get pumped off Utrecht. That's the last game he plays, and he's sold the very next day. He's gone.
Is it the next day after that?
Very next day after Utrecht,
He's definitely. I've just watched it literally before we came on, and he's hitting the post at home against St Mirren and stuff. I'm like,
that's right.
He was.
He sets up a Maloney goal and all.
That's right. And see, when I seen him in that strip, I just thought, wait the new. I thought he was one of the first things that happened that summer. I think he was off-ski. Totally played tricks me. And again, how prominent Maloney is. Yet when you think about that season, I don't really associate Sean Maloney with that team.
No, I do. I associate with shots and numbers.
I think did he get injured quite early on in the campaign? Or did Hooper arrive and Stokes arrived and he lost his jersey? Because
Hooper didn't feature for a bit. He kind of took a wee bit of time, but
he did have his moments here and there.
I think he fell away.
Because this is his last season, isn't it? He leaves at the end of the season.
See, even for the footage you watched, the first few games, at 27, I think there's a moment there was a ball played across the box at home. All he has to do is slide, and he totally pulls out it. There's no reason to pull out it. It's first half of the game, and I'm like, he's 27 there. I think he knew he would injure himself if he slides even a yard. He just couldn't bring himself. I think injuries played a big part in him spending his best years at Wigan. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. Oh, definitely did. Now, before we move into the second half, obviously, just a wee quick final roundup in the pre-season. I say we always keep our eye on what the rivals were doing because obviously they're a big title contenders, and they signed an absolute bunch of cretins during this season, to put it lightly. Vladimir Weiss, Ricky Foster, James B, Nikita Yelovich all came in the summer, and then in the January window, the cretins of cretins came in. El Hadj Diouf, Kyle Bartley, and David Healy. Oh, what a disgusting bunch that is. But yeah, they all came in and
staunch.
Very staunch. Very staunch. Heading out, though, the staunch revolving door at iBrooks was Chris Boyd, Nacho Novo, Stephen Smith, Kevin Thompson. He's a good guy, apparently. DeMarcus Beasley and Danny Wilson. As part of the loan deal that they did for Richard Foster, yes, they took him on loan from Aberdeen. Nikita Yelovich went, or not the Yelovich, the other one, Velichka. That was it. Velichka went the other way.
Striker.
And they let Kenny Miller go to Bursaspor midway through the season. He had a spell out in Turkey, and James Beattie only lasted 6 months and had his contract cancelled at iBrooks.
Kenny Miller pops up everywhere. Like, see if he's at the fucking Dunfermline pantomime this fucking Christmas as fucking Cinderella. I wouldn't be surprised because he signed every other contract in the world. Do you know what I mean? Fucking everywhere.
Wouldn't be shocked at all.
No.
And as for our pre-season results, we had a wee tour of the North America, the MLS. We played Philadelphia Union. Well, we actually lost that game incredibly. We also lost to Man United out in America 3-1. We did beat the Seattle Sounders, though. We're really too far away from Vancouver, is it, Liam?
What was that? Seattle?
We beat the Seattle Sounders, so it's on that same side in North America. And
it's an hour and a half's drive for here. But I never went. I went to Toronto to watch the Man United one. That was the other time they were here, though. They were playing Barcelona, I think, in Seattle, and I went to watch it in Toronto against Man United because all my pals would be there.
What was it like? Crowd and stuff? Was it busy?
Well, it was good. It was the Sky Dome. So Sky Dome's usually about 60,000, but they got about 30,000, 40,000 that. It was good.
Nice.
You know, and that's pretty good for that type of stadium and a friendly. You know?
Yeah, that's not bad. It must be an absolute pleasure for you to get the chance to see them out there, though.
That was brilliant. So they did one when we were playing Roma at the Sky Dome. Rangers came out and they played a Serbian team. I think they played Belgrade, and they were worried about crowd violence of that one. And they only got about 20,000 people for their game. You know, it was just horribly advertised. It was like, you know, just everything they did, you know, like haphazard, and you know, we other people stuff and all that. And we were all hoping all the Serbians got in and battered them, you know. Never happened.
But I was in Toronto that one against Man United at the Sky Dome. 3-1 they beat us in that one. Say we beat Seattle Sounders 2-1 though, and then we finished off with a game in Boston at Fenway Park. We beat Sporting Lisbon on penalties. We also played in the Emirates Cup that year, Arsenal's annual pre-season tournament. We played Lyon, drew 2 each, and lost 3-2 to Arsenal, and then finished up our pre-season with a loss at home to Blackburn Rovers. So obviously we had to play some European qualifiers early as well, because the way the coefficient was working at that point, we obviously lost to Braga in the Champions League qualifiers, 4-2 on aggregate, 3-0 out there, and 3-0 out there.
I thought we beat them at home. I wanted that clarity.
We beat them 2-1 at home.
And did Juarez not be brilliant? Was he not brilliant in that?
Emirates Cup, Emirates Cup, that's when the kid on he could play football.
No, I'm sure against Braga at home,
He was
Stevo.
brilliant against Braga. He scores against them.
Aye, he was shit hot, man. I remember thinking that was the best out of all the signings that night.
Alexander Bernabei.
Oh, Bernabei vibes about him, do you think?
Absolutely.
Or rather, Juarez vibes about Bernabei.
I think Juarez, see if he wasn't doing well as an assistant manager, he would be like, kind of, they all go for like ex-Celtic players, like fucking, you know, I'll not mention any names, but they're all a bit boring. We'd had Juarez, right? Do you know what I mean? Big Juarez just being like, what's happening, lads?
What on? Go grab a ticket, get a seat.
He's away with the birds, man. Like, I bet you Larry at times is like, Ephraim, I love a party. I love a bevy. But fuck me, you're taking the piss. I don't even play anymore, and you're drinking more than me.
He was the early part of the season. He looked a player, and he does score against Braga in the home leg. We did win 2-1, but it was too little, too late. But we dropped into the Europa League qualifiers. But it was win or bust against Utrecht. We beat Utrecht 2-0 in Glasgow, and then went out there and we lost 4-0. So out of both European competitions before the kids even went back to school that summer. So yeah, not the best starts for Mr. Lennon, but we'll put a new interlude, because also I need to get to the toilet because I've been drinking beer like crazy here, so I'll need to take a little break, a comfort break. I have not. I've had 4 so far.
And they're wee tiny ones, I know. Inexcusable.
I've had 4 so far, but yeah, I need to do that, and we need to put the musical break in. And when we come back, we'll be getting into the 2010-11 season. So if you didn't see the new outro last night, you're about to see it. A new Chris Sutton soundbite on it as well.
Me longer at tea as well.
We'll see you in a couple of minutes, guys.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.
And we are back, although Russell isn't back just quite yet. But yeah, that was the new outro, a new Chris Sutton soundbite on it, and it's just been jazzed up all. We've took some 2022, 2023 sort of magic dust and sprinkled it on the intro. As I said last night, same but different, essentially. You've still got that same theme song. And I saw people asking as well, what is the song? It does come up during the intro, but yeah, if it's Brian Cattigan, if you want to check him out, if you go into the description of the video, that's all been jazzed up as well. There should be a link to Brian's YouTube channel as well, so you can check him out there, guys, because yeah, he's very kindly provided the now iconic theme song, I would say, that goes with the Boise Bus. It's phenomenal. So yeah, definitely check him out. And here comes Russell rejoining us. So let's get into it. Of course, we had to start with one thing.
Sorry about the delay.
Football. It's all right.
My mate's dad's just died.
Who?
My mate's dad, and he was old, right? But he was old when we were young, but he was our football team coach. Remember I told you we played for Auchterarder Primrose? Andy Murray was centre midfield. That's the honest truth. I was left back in the changing room half the time. And his dad was like 70 then, and he was the soundest guy, and that's him just past there. Oh,
wow. I'm not laughing because I just said he got 70 there. I'm assuming you're being dramatic, surely.
No, I think he was.
No,
he was old. He must be about. He must be early mid-80s. He was old. Like
that's
like
good
so
innings,
we were like, he was. He must have been about late 60s, 70 when he was our football coach. He was like, because my mate, he had like a big brother who was like 43 when we were at high school. And Dad was obviously a shagger, you know what I mean?
I love that shit. See guys that are just lifetime football guys. I love it.
But he was Auchterarder Primrose. But like Andy Murray, like no joke, will be gutted seeing that because he played a huge part in him. Like Murray was obviously, he was the best player by a mile, right? He was just shit hot and just annoyingly good at things. Do you know what I mean? And Ray Abercrombie, oh mate, I know no Ray Abercrombie. I don't care. I'm still saying it on the bus, you know. Fucking God bless you, mate. Oh, I'm devastated at that. I've just literally found that out now, so apologies for being a wee bit late. My very brief shite football career.
That's more important than us talking shit about Lenny, innit?
He was the only guy who ever signed me on some sort of a youth SFA contract was Ray Abercrombie. I'll never forget, I was 16 and he's picked us up outside the Tesco in Dunblane, right? So he goes, Boise, I heard about you. And I went, what the fuck are you on about? He goes, last night, cigarette in the mouth, can of cider, and 2 girls on your knees. I heard all about it. And I was like, that never even
sounds like a good night by him.
I was like, someone needs to tell me about this night I've had. He's like, that's what I heard, Boise. Your eyes don't lie. But the honest truth was, I'd been like 8 bird, not 2. Do you know what I mean? And I'd woke up on a couch and basically stumbled along my football gear. So he'd seen by the car drawing up and me standing there, my glazed eyes. And the time I've sat down, he's came up with a synopsis like that. I went, that's called experience. Folk has been able to read you like a. Stevo, that's the loudest crackling I've ever heard in my life. But I just, you know, just stuff like that. I just think, you know, the old boys, they don't miss a trick. They don't miss a trick, and seeing that's blew my mind. Ray Abercrombie, man, a real good guy. Anyway, back to the show. Sorry about that, Phil. Literally just wrote me a wee bit there, seeing that. Like,
it's all right, mate, because on a similar somber note, I've mentioned before about my mother passing away. Today would have been her 67th birthday. She was actually born on the 13th of January. It was a Friday she was born on as well, funny enough, a Black Friday. But yeah, so she would have been 67.
Oh, was Matt born on the Friday 13th?
Friday 13th as well.
Sorry, it's truth. But God bless her, mate. Next one.
So it'll be 8 years this August that she's passed, and where's the time going? I don't know. But I was like, so she's in my thoughts as always. But today would have been our 67th birthday. I'm not as good with the birthdays and the that as you, the dates and that. So she's born 1956, 67, yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool. I'm all right then. Nice one. But no, that would have been a birthday today. So 13th of January in 1856. So we bit of a somber one for myself, but we shall push on.
Good on you doing the show, Phil. Fair play to you, mate.
No worries at all.
Good job. clowns like us to.
No, sorry, don't worry about it. Don't worry. This is
Good
what I
lad,
enjoy
though,
doing. This is it. This keeps me going.
Fair play to you, mate.
But Russell, you talk about a rock and roll night that you had there. Well, rock and roll football, we've alluded to it with Neil Lennon season, because when he was unveiled as interim manager the season before, he sat at the press conference and he wants to bring back the Thunder. And I don't know if people kind of, giggled at it as it's just some funny soundbite, a bit like people maybe said with Ange with the whole, we never stop thing. Remember the whole mic'd up session? There were some people out there that went, we never stop, and that's really to be true. Well, it turns out with Neil Lennon and the bring back the Thunder, it wasn't just a buzz term he threw out there to maybe put on a t-shirt or something like that, because the way we started the season, we certainly were bringing back the Thunder. So he's won 8 league games at the end of last season. He actually started this season winning 8 league games on the bounce as well. That included victories over the likes of Hearts, Motherwell, St Mirren, and so forth. But obviously, the game that before we play Rangers, obviously, the game that comes to mind in that first run of fixtures, one of the most controversial games of the season, one that should have an overbearing effect on the season, essentially, as we, fixture number 8, we went to Tannadice to play Dundee United, and something very, very interesting happened midway through the second half of the game, tied at 1-1 after Gary Hooper put us ahead, and David Goodwillie had equalised. Gary Hooper gets free in the box, and the goalkeeper completely wipes him out, and Dougie McDonald points to the spot and says penalty kick. But before Celtic can take the penalty, as they're lining up and preparing to take it, Dougie McDonald is suddenly like, no, wait a minute, and this is way before the days of VAR, and he goes over to his linesman, Stephen Craven. They have a little conflab, a little chat, then he comes back and goes, actually, no penalty, and I don't remember what he even gave, because could he give a goal kick? Was that a free kick he gave? I can't remember, but he didn't book Gary Hooper for diving, so it wasn't that. So what was it that made him change his mind? What was it? But in the end, this decision would have quite an impact, to say the least. Celtic did go on and win the game. Gary Hooper scored in the 89th minute to win it. But not long after, we had that penalty controversy. Ki Sung-young got fouled in the box. No penalty. There was a handball by a Dundee United player. I think it was Sean Dillon handball. That was a clear handball. No penalty. And, of course, we also get the image as well of Neil Lennon arguing with Dougie McDonald as well on the sideline. Now, of course, Celtic wouldn't let this go. It's kind of a bit of a throwback to the McCann days where it's like, no, we're not letting this go. And we challenged it. Something that we've said that Celtic should do now, even in games when they win, with this whole VAR thing, challenge it. We won the game in the end. Celtic did challenge it and felt there's a rat here, something suspicious about this. And after an investigation from the SFA, it was found out that Dougie McDonald admitted that, he told Stephen Craven basically to lie on his behalf to overturn the decision. Inexplicable, really, guys. How do you even start? Like, what can you even say to that?
Surprised.
Yeah.
I watched that clip. First of all, the handball's outrageous, but I'm looking at now we've been gaslit so much with VAR and all that. I was even questioning, would they call that now? Would that be a handball today? I watched the challenge in the box. That's a penalty all day long.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the ball went out of play? The Dundee players just huddled around the referee. They went up to him and they just got in his face. That's not a penalty. And that's what made him change his decision. Then he went running out the line. So he's looking for something. I think what happened, the whistle was just in his mouth, and I think it was one of the reactions. It was a penalty. He reacted, and then he started double thinking, oh no, what is the implications of this? Was it dry cut enough for me to get it? Rangers will be watching, before it. I don't know, it just stunk to me, and then everything that happened after that as well just seemed to be a massive overreaction. But anytime we react, we're paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chris Sutton's take. Did you see Chris Sutton with Ali McCoist today? Digging about us, calling us paranoid. When he's bringing out some of his, I want the names of the people on the board because they denied a transfer. I want, Stephen Gerrard's right. We've been unbiasedly refereed for ages, and it's got to stop. And you can't brass neck him, And that game as well, the one on Key as well was even more of a penalty in the first one.
I think so. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, the whole reaction to that, and the Scottish government's reaction to it, Everton sitting there here, it's like, oh Christ, is Scotland still like that? You know, still going on. And here we are, 2023, having the same conversations, you know.
Aye. No, we are. It was, I say, we would cause a bit more controversy in a few weeks' time once the outcome of the investigation was found. But yeah, obviously, despite their best efforts that day, Gary Hooper still popped up and scored. And the same with the rock and roll football. You know, the season started, if you remember right, with the win over Inverness, where Paddy McCourt scored a goal that only Paddy McCourt would score because he didn't score tap-ins. He didn't score crap goals. He beat like 4 or 5 Inverness players weaving in from the wing and scored. And I set the tone and say we went through everybody. After 8 games, we've won 8 on the bounce, 24 points on the board. But sadly, it all came to a grinding halt. Unfortunately, against the worst possible team. We played Rangers at Celtic Park in late October that year. Despite taking the lead after a seat, I can remember being at this game and we got about 6 or 7 corners on the bounce. It was like relentless pressure just before half time. It's like corner, Rangers cleared, it was another corner, and eventually one falls to Gary Hooper right in the 6-yard line, just chase it down and volleys it in the net from about, well, I say 6 yards out. He made sure there was no mistake putting that ball in the net. But in the second half, obviously Celtic come out and just completely shut the bed, essentially. But of course, the controversy there is that added to what happened at Tannadice is, of course, Willie Collum with the eyes on the back of his head. That is the infamous Mastorovic and Kirk Broadfoot moment where Broadfoot takes a tumble and Willie Collum's not even looking at the action, turns around and goes, oh, penalty. Doesn't even consult with his linesman or nothing, just not even looking, goes, penalty. Rangers end up beating us 3-1 on the day. But the uproar that came from that obviously resulted in the referees deciding that we've had enough of Celtic and bringing the game into disrepute. You know, say you had the media were turning against us, fans of other clubs, and I'm not talking about just Rangers. It felt like every fan from around the country was against us. And I say the referees themselves, they decided to go on strike.
See, with that, does he not, sorry to interrupt, does he not say something mental like he heard contact in the box?
There you go, Alan Woods. It sounded like a penalty, apparently, is what he said.
Fucking hell, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
It's a contact sport. You're going to hear a lot of stuff, aren't you?
Aye, yeah, and
but you know, between that penalty thing, not to cast it up and drag it through, but between that penalty thing getting rescinded, and then that effort, and then what we're seeing more recently, and particularly this nonsense about, I think it came out, going off on a tangent about this collusion on the Sailor Rangers and all that stuff. Like, you know, talk about. Still think you're paranoid, but I mean, there's a track record, even stuff like the Farry and stuff. That, you know, there's actual tangible, real incidents.
Have you seen Stevo, the another YouTube channel it is now? Obviously, it's from the MSM. They're now on YouTube. PLZ Soccer.
Yes,
and it's the boy Martin, is it?
Aye, and I see. To be honest, he fucking does my tits in at times, right? But he is a Celtic fan. There's no getting away from it, right? And he does do my head in. But he made a valid point just to stop Richard Foster, who I mean, on loan for Aberdeen, you know, this season. But I mean, he is clueless, right? Yep. He thinks he's articulate, but he has no substance to what he's saying. So, see, something else, right? Won't be as maybe vocabulary as, you know, well tooled as a Ricky Foster, right? But there's substance to what we're saying. He talks. But it's talking heads always saying, you're talking a lot, but you're not saying anything, right? So he gets his silly wee agenda going, and Peter Martin interrupts and says, well, you can't, there's a million Celtic fans who will tell you there are 2 instances where it's not paranoia. The SFA have colluded against that club. 2 instances. And he's referring to Jim Farry, and he's referring to Dougie McDonald. That's in this season. These are facts.
Yeah.
Facts, right? Rangers were campaigned by one of their podcasts or one of their silly Twitter pages to remove
PLZ. I saw that.
The PLZ branding from the microphone in front of Mickey Beale, and they have pandered to that, and they have done it. I think that is astonishing.
That is
astonishing how much they will bow to the nutty element of their fan base. They want to call us paranoid as if we're nutty. We give 2 factual examples and they don't hear it. Oh, they must be pro-Celtic. No, we're talking about facts here. No. And it's like, well, you know, I just think it's, I think it's quite tragic that, you know, the PLZ branding can just be a wee campaign on Twitter and that club bow to that because they need the nutty element to keep Club 1872 going, my gels going, season tickets going, a friendly against fucking Brora Rangers going because we'll call them AC Milan. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing the amount of money they fleece off their fans. They have to keep them on side. Peter Martin, yes, he is a Celtic fan. No getting away from it. But they've turned it into the PLZ soccer have a box.
But see,
like,
here's the thing. The thing is, see the likes of PLZ soccer and stuff like that. See if you want to call them like a fringe publication or whatever, right? That some seem to do in the mainstream media. No matter what you think him, yes, he'll say some pro-Celtic things and stuff. He's obviously a Celtic fan.
Yeah,
but see on the general, see if it's something that's completely bullshit that Celtic are doing, or you know, Celtic are rotten or whatever. He calls it like it is. He still manages to maintain that level of impartiality and be objective about things, right? And that's, you know, and that's where it becomes a problem. Where, as you say, is pandering to a fan base and not recognising, right, he might be digging us up here, but it's not as if he's just a cheerleader for Celtic, because he's not.
Yeah.
You know, and his point was balancing up his show, which we do talk about Celtic, but how often have I said, I might not think this, but here's the devil's advocate to it, and here's the reasons why that might not be the case. Liam, me and you have done it a million times on here going, it's not actually what I think, but we need to also look at that prism. Do you know what I mean? We need to look at it through that lens. And Peter Martin delivers it in facts. They want him banned because they don't want facts. Because facts don't work in their whole history myth. That's the truth, Liam.
You know, he went out of his way to set that up and frame it all in such a way that I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't that. But same way Chris Sutton does it. They don't like that sort of thing because then they can't. And I think that's the best way to approach it, is just to approach it with the facts. You know, the facts that this referee said this at an after-dinner speech, that is a fact. People recorded that he said that I'm going to make sure these bastards don't get anything today. And everybody laughs and jingles their jewellery and claps and all that. And you know, and I will get the next lodge, you know, and that stuff actually happens. And when we bring it up, we're paranoid. But it's a whole thing about conspiracy theories and all that in general. If you've got facts to back it up, and when theory becomes fact, just because it was framed as a conspiracy theory, it doesn't have to stay that way. Just like we can change our mind on a player or whatever it is. It's like when new facts, if you holding on to the same opinion once you've been given new information, then that part it's just dogma. You're diving into a reality tunnel of beliefs.
It's like 25 million for Juranovic.
25 million what? Jelly beans? My God.
See, we're not biased on the bus either.
No, but it's been ridiculous reading that this week. And yeah, he's put him on the spot. I mean, the wee squirm that he does when he's sitting on the couch, Ricky Foster, you can see he's uncomfortable. You can see it.
3 conspiracies, because there's a Hugh Dallas one that then comes as well. He's sending Pope effigies.
The emails, that's right.
SFA email account.
Aye. That's
right.
I heard that he couldn't.
Fuck off. Like, here's another coin, you bastard. You know what I mean? Because I think stuff like that, I'm like, do you know what, though? Not because of defence stuff like that, and it becomes gutter stuff and all that, you know, hitting referees with coins. But what I will say is, the attitude behind it was, he's being biased. He doesn't like us, right? And it's went way overspilled, and I'm not condoning what happened. But the hunches, that he was biased and didn't like Celtic, were 10 years later, 100% proven by the fact this guy is abusing his SFA email account to send laughter faces with effigies of the Pope with kids in that. Fuck off, mate. Eh? So there's that. The Dougie McDonald, there's Jim Farry. Tell me who's paranoid? There's no paranoia about 3 facts like that.
The thing is, I've said for a long period, like I as a Celtic fan, I always try to be objective and constructive and stuff, right? And I genuinely do. I hate all this always cheated, never defeated pish. I do. I hate it. And sometimes I've seen it through the years and I'm like, you're just getting yourself a red neck, mate. Just chill out and calm down. However, what I will say is, see when you've got fact, hard fact, how can you argue with it? You know, that's the one thing I would say. If there's actual hard evidence, whether you're a Celtic supporter or you're not, or you're a Rangers supporter, whoever it is, if it's hard fact, then to argue it and think, oh, that's just the Celtic fans again, you know, they're pissed off about everything. That's the bit that gets my goat. You know, I can't be doing with that.
It's they just don't want to hear it, Stevo. That's how we've came out with conclusive evidence, conclusive moments where they were against us, and there's no counter argument to that, unfortunately. But no, it's one of them. You know, as they say, Chris has said here, they don't like unbiased channels because they're used to biased reporting. So, but yeah, the Dougie McDonald incident obviously was the big talking point in this particular season. Obviously, there was an investigation into it. He basically was found guilty of lying. Now, it turned out that Stephen Craven, the linesman, was kind of hung out to dry because he was basically banned for life by the FA, while McDonald was allowed to quietly retire from refereeing. So I wonder if he got a nice wee
and did the big Hugh Dallas come out and say, I spoke to him and he told me that's what happened? I confirm the decision that was made. He believes it. He spoke to them, and he spoke to them both independently, and he says, that's what happened. And then later, once your man get hung out to dry, he went, nah, it didn't happen.
You're right. I worked with somebody that knew Stephen Craven. He's from Lennoxtown. That's where he's from. And I worked out in Lennoxtown at that point, and told me about it. And it was months afterward. And Craven was fuming about it because he was hung out to dry. He was. So
it's poor.
Poor. Very, very poor. Very poor.
Willie Collum ended up being their top referee. He was the European and the World Cup referee, wasn't he? After that, he got promoted.
But the argument against him is he teaches RE.
That's right. Well, making that as a comparison
instantly because he teaches religious education. That makes him like biased against Rangers. Like,
did I not see something like that?
As to why that would make you biased against you. It's mental.
Am I imagining it, or did it see something like beating drinks in a Rangers booze, or that's no different from seeing Willie Collum going to chapel on a Saturday?
He did say that, yeah.
It was on the Graham Spears podcast. Again, we were talking about this in the bus stop. Context is different if you listen maybe to the full show, but don't tell me the clip that's leaked, Phil, by Graham Spears et al. Is because they want maximum impact. Therefore, people aren't going to pay $1.99 to hear your pod, Graham. They're going to take from the clip they hear what they want from that. And you chose out of a 1 hour podcast to share that 2-minute clip. That is a deliberate action. And if you get stashed for it afterwards, that is because you chose to go for maximum impact.
They did.
Maximum impact ain't always pretty.
No, they know what they've been doing there.
I dare say, Stevo, there is more context to it. I dare say.
Do you know what? The thing is, I'll wait until somebody's ripped it. I'll wait until somebody's. I'm not paying $1.99 for Graham Spears. I don't care.
That's the point.
See, as much as I want to hear it, I'm not doing it. Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate.
So when you share a wee snippet, which just basically sounds like going to mass is being compared with drinking in a Rangers pub, you go, what do you want us to read into that, mate? That's the clip that you've snipped. You've done that for traction to your pod. And you can't keep just putting out big paragraphs. You know, I hate all that stuff when it becomes like paragraphs and tweets like that are all well punctuated, basically saying, but there's a lot more to it than that. Why did you share that clip? Why did you share that wee clip of it?
It's like a quick banter.
Exactly. So see when you get all the fucking pelters for the clip, you got to deal with it. You just got to deal with it. That's the way it is.
That's it. It's very tactical what they've done there, and it's definitely got them the traction they're looking for. Because proper context, that does sound like a horrendous comparison. But again, I'm not paying for it, like Stevo says. Like, nobody cares, mate. Nobody cares. But yeah, moving on from that incident, I say Willie Collum obviously ruffled our feathers with the eyes on the back of his head and hearing a penalty, not seeing a penalty, he heard the penalty. Celtic weren't happy about it. The referees decided to go on strike. And what happened was foreign referees were drafted in November of 2010 for about fixtures. And unfortunately for Celtic, the game that we had a foreign referee, we actually didn't win. We drew 2-2 with Inverness. So unfortunately, that gave Oliver the Tractor some ammo to say, see, isn't it the ref because of the ref seats are dropping points? It's because he's are shite. And it's like, okay, just one of these bad days at the office for us. But a game that did happen in November of 2010, and we're talking about the rock and roll football, we did beat Aberdeen 9-0. Remember saying that Hooper and Stokes both scored hat-tricks in that game? It's a phenomenal day, that one at Celtic Park. But I think it also cost Mark McGee his job at Aberdeen, if I remember correctly, where afterwards he was quite defiant about, no, I'll survive this. And it's like, mate, you've just lost 9-0. Jack Ross lost 9-0 this season, and we got him the sack, basically. But I can remember Mark McGee being quite defiant in the paper, saying, "No, I'll be continuing on as Aberdeen manager." It's like, no, you will, mate.
Well, he probably had Strachan phoning them going, "Mark's a great guy. Listen, honestly, he's a great guy." Fucking those two, man. Old pals.
Do you remember the referee that came in, the foreign referee, what country he was from?
Nope.
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg, yes, he was. He's from Luxembourg. A guy named Alan Hamer, I want to say it's pronounced, Hamer or Hammer.
Have you noticed though, that's now a stick to beat Celtic with? Well, the last time Celtic went over the top with referees, we had to get foreign ones in. As if it was a bad thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
It was a successful experiment.
It was a great weekend.
And now it's like, oh, well, if Celtic push too hard, then we know what will happen. They'll go on strike again and we'll end up with these foreign referees. Okay, I'm all for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
They ain't going to have Mick Lynch supporting those refs, trust me.
I just find this phenomenal. No, you go, Stevo.
No, I was going to say, the thing is, see, you're talking about complaining about referees. I don't recall many open letters or referees not refereeing Celtic games for X amount of games after a lengthy complaint.
That's right,
you know,
yep.
So,
yep.
Aye, so that's that.
I just find it phenomenal during that whole debacle that we were painted as some sort of bad guys from it for simply calling it out, the corruption. It was found to be true in the end, but yet we were still painted as the bad guys because we brought the whole game into disrepute. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man, we're just trying, we're doing what we're talking about now, where even in victory, if there's a dodgy decision against us, we should be calling it out. We should be putting them, hold them to account for what's happened. But say the clubs seem to be making some kind of moves at the moment, but it's no on the level.
Kevin 14 comes in, and I think this is crucial, so crucial in the debate, because he says, to be fair, with the foreign refs no pitch too, here's the difference though, Kevin. You may well be bang on the money there. Guess what? See, the other part of it was eradicated. See, if the pitch, for pitch's sake, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
See, when you've got a hunch and you've got examples that we've just discussed the last 15 minutes, it ain't healthy when they get it wrong because you're suspicious. There is no suspicion with a Luxembourg referee being shite. He just might be shite his job. We know there's no agenda. And that's the huge, huge difference between shit decisions getting made and shit decisions getting made with this huge fucking, I don't even know how to describe it, do you know what I mean? But attachment to it that we're all guilty of having, but based on evidence, as we've just discussed. So I think we need to be quite clear on that one, Kevin, that you may well be right, they were shit, but they were shit. It's a clean, that's it. They were just crap. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's that, right? There's a huge difference between why were they shit? Right? See all that stuff. That ain't healthy, Liam.
No, because intimidation's a factor. And I think that's it. There's referees do not feel comfortable making big decisions against the Rangers team. And it's call it intimidation, call it bias, whatever you want. But there is a hesitancy. They're looking for a way not to make the call, not to award the goal, whatever they can. When we get an offside, they're looking at everything they can, I think, to not award that to us, because somehow giving us any advantage that's even been merited is somehow a detriment to their standing with how they're perceived by Rangers fans when they go to referee there. And I think they just want an easy life, and it's just too much scrutiny for them when they make a big call against them. You see it. You see it with Alan McCoy. You see people that bring up, and then anybody that's talking, anything about conspiracy, you're shouted down immediately by every single person, even if they have valid points. They'll still frame it that you're a conspiracy theorist.
Even right now, all what to do is everyone just shave their head, get a big scar on the back of their head, and wear gloves in April. That was Lennon's image.
Aye.
It was like a summer's day. Still had the gloves on with the shaved head on the touchline. I was like, oh, he looks insane. I loved that. I was all for that. That's an image.
My
Right
favourite
now,
one was
those
the cup final with Hibs in 2013, nice summer's day. He came out onto the park wearing a suit, then went back into the dressing room and came back out with the Celtic trackie and the gloves on and stuff like that for the cup final. He was just suiting up for no cup final.
Oh, I thought he looked. See, when he was at the side with the shaved head and the gloves on, I was like,
The collar turned up, that one with the tricolour on the inside, that fucking season. Oh,
I buy into imagery at times. I think there is elements of it. But it's similar to you saying Mowbray being not like motioning whatsoever, no matter what happens. And then you've got Lennon looking like a psychopath for the moment he walks in. And it's like the chest is puffed out, the gloves on. I'm like, Lennon, it's fucking like 18 degrees. Fuck off. Oh, anyway.
Not a broken sight.
Do you know how much money you can make? You know how much money you can make as a hand model here in North America? It's brilliant. I've used a few. I'm sure maybe Neil Lennon was just thinking, if this doesn't work out, you know,
Oh, do you remember the Lennon calendar? Fuck me, man.
Yeah.
He was getting all that stuff.
Was there not one of them in the park?
It's just wee kissy, wee pink eyes, wee kissy face.
I mean, listen, I appreciate Lennon, right? But let's be honest, he was never a handsome man, right? I mean, you know.
But he looked, but he still see at times. I think the shaved head, it worked for him because he was still relatively fit at this point as well. He wasn't like bloated then. He looked a bit insane. I was like, he still looks cool. It was the loose hood. Remember, it was like a waterproof. So it's Celtic black jacket. It was the loose hood, the black gloves, the shaved head. You could see the sort of scarred in the back of it. I went, I'm having that. He looks class. I think as well, when you built a new team, you need a leader, whatever form that is. And I'll give you another contrast in comparison. Callum McGregor's been a perfect leader for this new wave Celtic team.
Yeah.
Scott Brown was the perfect leader for the two groups of players, or the three maybe generations he was the captain of before. And it's now evolved that maybe even Brown's captaincy styles would have been a bit outdated with this group. Do you know what I mean? It's maybe his time for more of a communicator who's like Callum McGregor. And I think Lenny back then, I think he was provoking reactions. I think folk like Samaras, who were born horizontal, a little you're right, mate. You're right. I'm up for this today. And I think only Lennon, well, not only Lennon, but I think it took the likes of Lennon to get that reaction of some of maybe football's more horizontal players. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think he could strike a chord with folk, and I think his appearance at that time, I think, did play a part in it. I'm being honest to you.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Samaras there, because he's about to play a very significant part in the next one. Because, as I said, with we lost to Rangers in the first meeting with them that season, but Celtic and Rangers would meet each other a whopping 7 times that season. When's that a bit too much? Maybe that. We played them 4 times in the league, twice in the Scottish Cup because the tie went to a replay, and we played them in the League Cup final. But after losing, obviously, to them in late October, we had a loss to Hearts not long after. A few sketchy results along the way. Drew 3 home games in a row away like Kilmarnock and stuff like that. So we had some sketchy results in the run-up to the New Year fixture. As it turned out, it was a really bad winter in 2010. There was a lot of games called off. So Rangers were actually a few games behind us, but Celtic went into the New Year fixture top of the table by a point, but Rangers had 2 games in hand. Top of the table. And Celtic were in a middle of an injury crisis, had 9 regular first-team players out for one reason or another. When we went to iBrooks on the 2nd of January, Celtic lined up Foster, Izaguirre, Mestorovic, who was the captain that day, Thomas Rogner, Mark Wilson, Charlie Mulgrew, Joe Ledley, Berham Kayal, James Forrest, Paddy McCourt, and Georgios Samaras.
Big Rambo Papadopoulos.
Big William Rambo on this day because sensationally though,
that is a belter of a comment though, Phil.
As but this day he was Rambo because sensationally he hadn't scored a league goal at all. Now he had scored in Europe that season. He did bag a hat trick against Inverness, the League Cup game. But yeah, when he was put up front on that day against Rangers at Ibrooks, he hadn't scored a single league goal in the first half of the season. But needs must because we were ravaged with injury problems that day. But Jesus Christ, Neil Lennon must have gave him some pep talk. Because I've said it before about Lennon. It's one of the things that people forget how he turned Georges Samaras into a very, very useful player for us over the next few years. Because at that point, Samaras wasn't going anywhere. I'm still convinced that when he gave that post-match interview after we lost to Ross County in his interim time in charge, he talked about there's some players who don't belong here, don't want to play for the club, and it's quite similar actually that Ferris Farosh one. But he gave a similar speech then. I'm certain Samaras was one of the players he was aiming that at, but Samaras was still there on January the 2nd, 2011. It's a good thing he was because he terrorised them that day. Of course, Liam, we spoke about it in the Skelpings episode. Samaras Sunday. Nobody will ever forget that image. Joe Ledley picks up the ball in his own half and flights the most perfect, maybe 60-yard pass right into Samaras's path, who takes one touch and goes around Alan McGregor, who's come charging at his box. The angle is getting smaller all the way, but he slots it well because I remember watching it live and I thought he's going to miss here because it's Samaras. But no, he finished it brilliant. I thought the angle was going to get away from him, but no, puts it brilliantly. And as Ian Crocker said, Liam, Happy New Year to the men in hoops as he jumped the barrier and right into the Broomlow end.
It was some game. I was a Samaras fan already. I liked him. For the first minute I saw him when he was on loan for Man City, I thought, was he on loan or he just came for Man City? But
he joined on
absolutely. I remember him picking up the ball at the halfway line in his first game and just driving right into the goal. Just power past everyone. Go, that's exactly what we need. And I still think we need a player like that. I think that's what Giacomakis brings to the table, But Samaras, and then I think as well too that whole thing with Jay Beattie,
that's right.
Once that sort of that was a different side of him that I think a lot of people really liked, but also he picked up his game as well, and you could see he was taking on a lot more responsibility. And I mean, something you'd see in a movie of that, where we kid in the crowd, and this guy catches his eye, and then his hero brings him into the fold and that as well. I mean, I loved everything about Samaras and Samaras Sunday. I mean, how many players have a game name next to them, right?
I know. I said in Stevo, it was the second goal as well. When it came to that Rangers team, there was a lot, I said earlier on, a lot of cretins in that team, but one guy that really got under our skin was Izaguirre. The satisfaction I got when he clumsily bundled Samaras, who, keep in mind, picks the ball at the halfway line and goes pretty much up the sideline, cuts inside, and Izaguirre just wipes him out. Because I think the season before, they beat us in a game at Ibrooks, and he got away with a horrendous challenge and does the whole wink to the bench thing. It's like, you're a slick bastard, you really are. So it was good to see him get a fucking egg on his face there. I was loving that one, mate.
Bastards.
Izaguirre was their hero at the time. He was the rock. We could do no wrong. But I was actually at that game, and it was tremendous.
Nice.
It was very, very good. And do you know what I always say about you said that Samaras may runs through and he coasts by McGregor? Just on that, the one thing I always found fascinating about Samaras was he had this deceptive speed, but it looked like he was running through tar, but he was still able to just glide by guys with these big long strides. And that's that goal, the first one epitomises that. You think he's tanking it through, but he's not. It's just almost if he's just slow motion and we're all living in the moment around him. Then it's just a wee pass right in the net, just sweeps across left to right as McGregor's lying on the deck.
Here's my take on Samaras. He frustrated Strachan. Lennon, he fascinated Lennon.
Yeah.
Frustrated Strachan, he fascinated Lennon. Lennon understood Lennon had played to a level, right? You need to remember Premier League for fucking 5-6 years before he came to Celtic. Right? He'd been with big characters, you know what I mean? And that Celtic team was a EPL top 6 team, right? Which is mental for maybe some of the younger viewers to understand. But what if I was top 4? Probably that they were big, big times, right? Lennon was part of that. he knew at times you need a maverick. And I think what Strachan couldn't deal with Samaras, even though Samaras was hugely influential in that 07-08 season. Hartley Robson get rightfully loads of credit. Samaras, I think, scored about 9 goals between that January and the end of the season, right? And Lenny said Samaras, but I think he fascinated him. And I think Lenny knew, I know how good you are, and I'm going to get it out of you, big laid-back bastard. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was what it was like. And it was like, Lenny was like, see what? Laid-back meets, vertical. I like, Lennon is the opposite of laid-back. Everything is intense. Everything means the world. Everyone's the most important minute of your life. And I think that kind of triggered Samaras in some sort of way. And I also believe there's a debate to be had about where in your squad or your first team can you fit in a maverick. And my belief is good managers can deal with big personalities. They don't just want 11 students.
Aye.
Does our current manager like a maverick?
The term that was always used when it was the word enigma. I fucking hated it. It drove me mad. He's an enigma. And what I'd say is for me, I remember Samaras very well, and I would say that I was always of the opinion at the time that he's only good when he wants a contract.
No, disagree.
I know, but that's what's great about football fandom.
The occasion, I think the bigger the occasion,
he was good when he played. See, when he was in the shit and he needed to dig himself back out and get back in the picture, he started playing. Or a big game where it was a European game or a game against Rangers, he turned it on. And you know what? Like, I don't know how you would describe that or look at the reasons as to why that was, but my point being is he was very much on his own terms.
But I wonder
when he thought it was in his own terms.
There's a recipe for how a team is formed, right? And you look at Alex Ferguson's Man United's teams right through. There's always the Joker card. There's always one that you go, he ain't going to be, he ain't going to be Dennis Irwin, who just played like as a team player, a Gary Neville, a Phil Neville. You need these guys because they're important cogs in the machine. Roy Keane, as much as he's a big character, he is all about the team, right? Yep. But how does Cantona get in there? Because he's good. And Cantona wasn't meant to be part of that United team. He goes against the grain of everything Alex Ferguson has instilled in all these youth players. He's going to their flats, remember, when they're young to find out if they were drinking.
That's right, aye.
2 in the morning, Lee Sharp's flat and all that.
Aye.
Yeah, Cantona, just let him do his thing because he's that good. And I think, obviously, we're not comparing Samaras.
Yeah, of course.
But we're talking about in a young team where Lennon's demanding standards and he's instilling him. Gary Hooper's you're talking about earlier. Look at the effect he had. What was it you said? 40 goal contributions or something that season. 31, 22 goals, 9 assists. And you go, but that happened because he got instilled. You're playing for Celtic now. Kyle joins. You're playing for Celtic now, son. This is the level we need to get to. Then there's a Samaras, so you go, just do your fucking thing, mate. And I've got a feeling in my opinion, I think there's good management in that when you need that. And I go back to some of the European nights with Sammy, and I think he'd done it under Mowbray as well. Remember Dynamo Moscow away?
Dynamo Moscow, yeah, that's right.
He qualified us. But I think then what he went on to do, maybe not even so much this season, albeit the 3-0 game, he was fucking unreal. The through ball for Izaguirre for the second goal was just a shambles how good it is for Sammy. But I think when you actually watch his European displays as the seasons go on, then he became, to me, he was more of the talisman than Hooper ever was. It was when we need the out ball, watch. He just grew into it. What are you drinking now, son, by the way? That looked...
Ooh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Oh, nice.
I love it. I thought that was...
Hi, guys, listen.
Stevo, Matt, welcome aboard the Voicey Bus, mate.
No, what I see with the interval, and I'd limited booze in the fridge, and I was aware I had to get back upstairs.
Get the Christmas Prosecco.
Fucking geezer.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
Fitting perfectly.
We
Stevo,
approve of that, don't we?
Was
a
that
wee glass of bubbly in your second ever appearance on the bus. He's gonna do all right, eh?
He'll do all right.
We could change the name to fucking the Alki bus.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
But no, you're right on the Samaras thing. The one as well when you're talking about European nights, that header against Spartak Moscow in stoppage time, a first away win. That glancing header beats the goalkeeper at the far post. What a moment. What an absolute moment. But yeah, after Samaras Sunday, incredibly, guys, we've still got to play them 5 more times this season the way it would work out. We would go for a Scottish Cup game next at iBrooks, going back there just a month later. At half-time, we go in 2-1 down and a man down. Fraser Foster gets sent off for half-time for a foul on Stephen Naismith, but Stevie Whittaker scored the penalties. The Luskers in goal for the second half. Now, obviously, the goal in the second half that makes it 2-2 and the Bruni celebration is what, is iconic. It's always remembered to this day. But obviously, Neil Lennon made a wee tactical change at half-time. I believe he brought on Ki Sung Young, who ran the show in the second half, and his performance gets overlooked because of the Bruni celebration and the goal that Scott Brown scores. Ki Sung Young, masterstroke that day.
Let me in here, because that second half display is when you went, this has turned.
Yeah,
Lennon,
it was.
Lennon is now, in my opinion, at this point, this is how I was feeling. He knows what he's doing here. This guy, this is against Walter Smith, not Ali McCoy. I think people forget. Did you see the set too? That was Walter Smith's assistant at the time. Walter Smith is still very much in charge. Walter Smith against a 10-man Celtic at home, 2-1 up, does not concede, mate. He doesn't give that game away. Second half, we played the full half with 10 men and passed them off the park. And that is because, as you say, of the Ki Sung Young introduction and also what Lennon's instilled in them. Play the game. You're better. Football will beat whatever it is they're trying to do. Sound familiar? That is the truth, though. That's the that second half. I remember we drew that 2-2, and it felt like we'd pumped them 5-1. So I went, I was smart. I was smug. I went, did you just see how on their turf? We've went down to 10 men and just literally played them off the park. It was inspired. If it was a Brendan Rodgers display, we'd be honestly waxing lyrical about how did Brendan Rodgers come up with that. Oh, what a genius. Don't forget who had the bollocks and the courage of his convictions, Liam, to do that and go that way. And it was Neil Lennon. It was outstanding.
I think one of the things he did that year is he really forged a team mentality.
Yeah.
This is the first time you sound like it was a throwback to the Larson, the O'Neill era, the Clarkson, where team mentality. He fused that team together as well. You were hearing all the time that they were all sort of good pals off the field, and it seemed to be like, I think it was a clique that eventually formed, as Ronnie Dyler found out. But I think he's really brought a team mentality. The players that he picked, that he handpicked to pull into the team, I think were the players that provided the
man. See you later, Bob.
And that culture helped us perform like what we did against Rangers.
Do you know, here's something I want to chuck into that, right? And I've obviously seen, when it talks about Lennon, not just this season, but in general, when he moves to another club, I always say, see that sort of old school, right, fucking grab you the throat, let's go boys, let's do this kind of mentality, old school, right? I think it's got a limited shelf life now. What I would say is, and I bring Rangers into this, Rangers often thrive on what I call siege mentality, us against them, right? No, siege mentality, us against them. Now, maybe unpopular opinion, but I think that's Neil Lennon, that no matter what team he goes to. The siege mentality is the whole, everybody writes you off, I believe in you. They're all against us, let's fucking get into them. And I think it's proper old school, but it only has a shelf life.
But Stevo, I think that's undervaluing the football we played that second half as well.
I'm not.
We played is Brendan Rodgers stuff.
No, listen, I'm not shitting on the football because it was, as you say, it was rock and roll football. And see me actually watch back like I did for doing the show, the videos and stuff. a lot of the style of play, what we're doing, it's not too dissimilar to what we're doing. A lot of low crosses in the box. The only thing that was really differentiated was the crosses across the box weren't just like flat on the ground across the box. In the current season, it was a mixture, low balls, high balls, it was the same sort of general formula, right? But what I mean is so I'm no disrespecting or dissing the football because it was quality and it worked. What I'm saying is, though, is the mentality behind the football was siege mentality.
Yeah, but there's siege mentality, but there's also the part of that siege mentality is we're better than them.
Yep.
Play football. Even with 10, play your game. Key, you're the best passer in the fucking league. Yes, maybe that would sound a bit siege mentality-esque. I'm bringing you on as a sub and you're the best midfielder in the park. I could hear that siege mentality. But if you look at the style we actually played, it was the Celtic way. It was so much. It's exactly what, if it's a Postecoglou or a Rodgers production, you start going, 10 men, how did he do it? It's a masterclass. Lennon will never get the same credit for that. He got the best of both worlds that second half. That, for me, was one of the my favourite 45 minutes at iBrooks ever because they were a decent team still then. I know there was a few hammer throwers, but they had the core of a decent team and they had arguably their best manager of all time at the helm, right? And we had a rookie manager and we had a new team and they were all young. And then obviously, I think as well, see the iconic moment with Bruni? Don't tell me that is not came from a part of the manager. The manager's arrogance, the managers. We're on their turf, we win there, by the way. That's what we do. See, when I go there, I walk off smoking cigars. Think about what we were speaking about last week, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about Neil Lennon looking up at the crowd, walking off after a Roy Keane masterclass and smoking a cigar. Scott Brown, what's his first instance after he scores? The best left foot colour of his life.
Aye.
And how does he even know? It's Juff that's right beside him. In that moment of euphoria, I'm going, I've lost the plot. Do you know what I mean, Liam? Do you, like, if you scored a World Cup final goal, you're like you wouldn't know what to do. What does Scott Brown do? I know where he is. Blank.
Thumbs.
The arms out. And you go, that is insane. Don't tell me a part of that doesn't come from the guy who's been in his ear for the last 7 months telling him to be Celtic captain. Do you know what it means to be Celtic captain? Do you know how much they hate you? Do you know how much this matters? Neil Lennon, I am telling you, he takes a fucking huge pat in the back for even that celebration alone, I think has played a part.
Oh, it's a lot of influence, as I said earlier on, definitely rubs off on Bruni. But here's the thing, guys, that you might not remember, because obviously the goal is iconic, the celebration iconic. Do you remember that we could have won that game if it wasn't for an Alan McGregor save late on to deny Georgios Samaras a header at a near post corner from it was a flight into the near post. Samaras corrects brilliantly and McGregor makes a good save. We could have beat them on that day. But of course, what the result was, we ended in 2-2, is it went to a replay and we got one of those magical nights under the lights. I feel that every year, and I know the Police Scotland and that don't want to do it, one fixture between them should be under the lights every season, I feel, because there's something different about it. The atmosphere that night was unbelievable at Celtic Park. This, of course, is the season when Just Can't Get Enough was like the new goal celebration song. And I remember how loud it was belting that out after Mark Wilson scored what turned out to be the winning goal and fucking nearly killed Sasa Papic along the way as well.
What was that
fucking shot, man? Jesus.
Trivia question for you. Trivia question for you, Phil.
Oh, this is good. Stevo, finally.
No.
Finally,
right, because it's a shiter, right? But it's relevant, right? Just what it says. So I always associate seasons with two things, right? Visual and audio. Visual's always the shirt because post-season build up, what's the shirt look like, right? Audio because what do we play when we score goals, right? So as you say, Just Can't Get Enough. What was our other most commonly used goal celebration?
Chelsea Dagger.
There you go. Liam's all over it.
Say that again.
Chelsea Dagger for Telly.
Right. So it's just when you said that. That's I always Always
that late that
associate.
No. It was just can't get enough. But Chelsea Dagger was the main one. Also, Fiesta by the Pogues is quite a common one as well, which is more the Martin O'Neill era.
Yeah.
Chelsea Dagger is more the Strachan era, and Just Can't Get Enough is more the Lennon era.
The one that we used to use, I think it was on a Zafira advert of all things. It was that.
That's it. It's Fiesta by the Pogues.
Is that what it is? I've not a fucking clue what that is. There you go. But it's funny how things like that ring in your minds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
We started bringing some of those old school ones back as well. Which
that's it. Every so often they'll wheel one of them out.
I tried to get a campaign last season going, play roll with it on Trophy Day.
Oh yeah.
Because remember they did it. After the 3-0 win because it was Wim Janssen's anniversary, and the crowd bought in again. And I went, Trophy Day, get roll with it on with the sun shining, and it'll go nuts. And they didn't do it. Probably just in spite of me, to be fair. They're like, that wee prick. That wee fuck.
Oh, no, that's good. I remember they did that after
the PA guy was like, Boise, what song? Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate.
But roll with it played last season. Do you remember that after the 3-0
3-0 game?
The double? Went out and look at the fans' reaction to that song being played. I thought Trophy Day, they're bound to do it, but they didn't. But we got Martin O'Neill interviewing essentially on Sky Sports, Ange Postecoglou. I don't know if you
remember
that. So it was like the Martin O'Neill was talking about him, and then Ange walked over and Martin was like, "Oh, better be quiet now. Better be quiet." Turned his back on him, and then he basically was just like, This guy is so good, and Ange didn't know how to deal with it. It was cool. It was like it was a cool. I took a wee screenshot of it, and I was like, that's two icons. Anyway, I don't know how the fuck we're talking about that now.
But yeah, Clown Warrior, smash the like button. Indeed, there's 86 people watching live at this time of night. I can tell you this is probably going to be a 3-hour show. Stevo, man, you just walked into a 3-hour show, mate. Congratulations.
Listen, do you know what? Here's the thing. I say this to boys tonight, right? As sad as it sounds, I'd fucking do this all night because.
Oh, there you go.
Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, here's the thing. It's, we all love the club and that, but see when you get into that and it's conversation, we're chatting.
That's it.
Who cares? See if they watch it, brilliant. See if they don't. Nobody cares. We're still talking. Exactly.
That's the thing about these episodes. People can go back and watch it with their own leisure. If you want to watch it in 3 separate parts and just divide up, do it. Do whatever you please. At the end of the day, as long as you smash that like button, remember to do that, folks, because that's always
do you know what? Here's the thing, Anthony. Like, how many folk have liked it? Because see if there's 86 or whatever it is, and it literally takes 2 seconds. See, instead of slagging each other off in the live chat, just fucking.
Well, Bob McBob's disappeared because he's usually a bit of a distraction in the chat. He usually distracts everybody from what we're actually talking about because he's going to be winding them up. So hit the like button. Bob McBob's away now. Go on, boys.
I know there is like a bit of that. I'm always like, I feel I'm the only person in the world who feels embarrassed calling it the Boise bus. I just like calling it the bus, and I also hate doing all that good stuff. Everyone's like, come on, Boise, like you need to do a wee bit more, mate. See, even on like social media, I just like retweet stuff as opposed to actually putting out like a tonight coming up. I hate doing that. I don't know why. It's weird. Like it's just
I feel this, man.
It's just like I should probably have its own page and then I could do it. But then I didn't have tweeting my own Boise bus page.
I'm calling out. We need an actual official Boise page. Boise page. Boise bus Twitter page.
Oh mate, I'll start quote tweeting it asking for square goals about politics.
Oh yeah, aye.
See if I don't get enough likes on the Boise bus post saying come into my attic for a chat about politics. I'll then Russell Boyce quote tweeted the Boise buses quote saying anyone game? Anyone out there?
Fancy it? No, you're not right, mate.
I've never bothered all that, so I just think come at the channel if you want some banter. There's a community page there. Keep the direction coming this way because it's more fun over here. The Twitter gets lost in translation as well. So I think sometimes you can have all these social media accounts, but actually you're there just to be shot at. Whereas the YouTube channel, you know what you're getting because we're here.
You'd shoot back.
Yeah,
that is handy. That is handy. Anyway, what are we talking about?
Games against Rangers. So in between the two cup games where we had that draw at iBrooks and Mark Wilson nearly killing Sasa Papic, there was a league game in between that as a fondly remembered league game. It is the 3-0 trouncing of them at Celtic Park, and that's when you really start feeling. You're right saying you felt it was turning after the game at iBrooks in the cup, but this game we really put a marker down. That, of course, is the one when Gary Hooper scores a brace and Chris Commons scores in the second half. You get the David Weir moment where he's running in completely the wrong direction away from Gary Hooper. Emilio Izaguirre turning into prime Roberto Carlos, running up that left wing for that second goal that Hooper scores. Nobody puts it across, and Samaras lays it off to him. He just continues to run, puts it across to the back post. Hooper slides in and scores. So Chris Commons, who'd already scored at Ibrox against him, notched up another goal. But that day, we absolutely trounced them. 3-0, comprehensive victory. And again, stadium was absolutely bouncing.
See that first touch, that one Hooper, he just sends Big Weir for a hot dog. It's a topper.
Yeah. He does. He nutmegs him along the way, doesn't he? Nutmegs him before scoring. But boy, Dane, that is the point where you really did start to believe. But
straight through.
You know what the BBC commentary said?
The BBC commentary? No.
He leaves Weir for dead. Like, how to retire?
There's just a skeleton.
That's what he said. He goes, he's left David Weir for dead. And I'm like,
he's talking about Hooper, right?
His body went one way and his soul went the other. You know?
It was Gary Hooper went, I am going to show you your 41 without telling you you're 41. Tell me you're 41 without saying it. Watch this.
No. The thing is, there's a term that I always use for Gary Hooper, right? And again, it's probably just some bullshit that I've made in my head, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. I call him a hybrid striker, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Celtic need, right? So he's small in stature, but he's strong. He's got a burst of pace. There's this misconception. Well, he's fucking smaller than me. I know that much.
For fuck's sake, Stevo. That doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Hulk Hogan's wee man. He's fucking like, oh.
No. So my point is, there's this misconception with strikers. I think that you're either that smaller guy that's got a wee turn of pace, a bit more skillful and gets in behind, or you're the big target man, right? He was a bit of both. He didn't have long up the park distance pace. But he had a short burst of pace, but it was explosive, and he was strong. He was able to hold guys off, and everybody calls him a fucking goal-mouth poacher. He wasn't. See, if you look at some of the strikes that he finished, he had some absolute culture finishes. And seeing that season we're talking about, there was a chip against Dundee, there was a goal against Ross County, like proper cultured, skillful finishes.
Wasn't he scored at Ibrooks, even though we lost on the day, the way he bent it around Alan McGregor?
He just turns it around the post. It's a beautiful finish. And that's what I'm saying.
The Scottish Cup final volley at the back post, where he's angled it back to the other corner. You're going, that's clear. I think you're right. He wasn't fucking Adam Rooney. Do you know what I mean? Who literally could just score goals and do nothing else. Hooper had far more to his locker than that.
And do you know what he had as well? See, in terms of, like, he didn't score a lot of headers, but you know what I mean when I say this? Certainly, like, you had a Larson who would leap like a salmon and pick it out of the air. He almost that Carter Vickers-esque header where it was just, he just hod folk, and, you know, he didn't even leave the ground. He just, he'd his strength and he'd hold folk off and just a wee nod. And that's what I'm saying by that term that I've maybe made up.
No. I think he got better. I think he went from a pacey, maybe thought he was coming to Celtic to be a poacher, to the Champions League campaign maybe a year or two later going, I remember he scored the goal against Spartak Moscow, right? We had to win that game, right, to qualify. But Spartak Moscow, see now, if you were pinning your hopes on Celtic, we'll beat Spartak Moscow at home, won't we, in the Champions League? How hopeful would you be? 50-50 max that we would do that. I remember going into that game under Lenny going, of course, we need 3 points for that in game 6. And Hooper gets the ball, chests it down about 20 yards outside the box and just rattles it low, and it actually runs up the net. So it almost looked like it was top bins, but it was a low volley. And you went, the confidence that he's built in the 18 months by this point, or 2 years he's been at Celtic, is just, that's the levels now he's at. Where Champions League is like, I think he controls it in his thigh or something, and then he just rattles it. And you're looking at a guy going, he has evolved. As Stevie says, he had more to his locker than just, being a penalty box.
He had a lot of qualities. He was very, for me, reminiscent of Scott McDonald, who went out before he came in. And that Scott McDonald, everybody, I loved Scott McDonald. I thought he was a great striker. And what I mean is he was almost like a level up on Scott McDonald. So see what I'm talking about that. He could poach. He was in the right position, but he was also strong, low centre of gravity. But what he had Scott McDonald didn't have was that explosive turn of short pace.
He could stretch. He could take the defenders, the centre halves, so they didn't want to go. McDonald probably couldn't do that as much. Yep. But again, it's funny that you say that because it's two unfashionable signings. Motherwell and Scunthorpe we bought these boys from. And we've seen them, both of them, Liam, score goals against the best of the best in Europe.
You know what? He had a toughness about him as well. I remember them talking on the team, when they do the daft team interviews. It's like, who's the last guy in the team you'd want to fight? And it was always Gary Hooper. That he looked like he was a real tough player. There was a story about some kid on fight and he just absolutely ragdolled somebody about the face. And it was like, you start, I liked him a wee bit better when I heard that as well. I always I
didn't know that.
Like Kyogo and all that, but I like to have a striker that's got a wee bit of bite to them as well. Someone's going to take a piece off a defender. And I thought Gary Hooper in the tradition of Chris Sutton and people like that, he likes to take a wee bit away from them. They know they've been in a game. Do
you remember when he signed? Liam? Right, I'm going to show you a throwback, right? Because this is, again, generationally, I do think Lennon caught the last cusp of players who really were amazed they were signing for Celtic. Gary Cooper showed up in a full three-piece suit, but not a flashy one, like he was going to a fucking IT job interview. Like he was totally humbled that he was in. There was a photo taken of him. I don't know if you remember. And he was just in he genuinely looked like he went for the IT job at Celtic. Do you know what I mean? I thought, he's not showing up with the sunglasses on the head, the fucking, the Beats headphones and the big baggy jeans with the chain. He was showing up with real humility. And he was like, I want to get the gig. Like you would, if you went for a job interview, you're like, you need to look good here, you need to get impressed to actually get the job. That is very refreshing to me. That wasn't a stepping stone FC production.
No. I think you're right. He found that last of that breed, and he was the last guy, I think, to manage that. And I think that's why his second stint was so sad. There was none of those players there there was nobody could build a team around like that. Take the boys, get them on a night out, get them fired up, that sort of thing. And that culture all changed. And you're right, he did the very, very best with what he had at that time. And I think that culture that he bred was a big, big part of us winning as a team and how that team got on.
Stevo, I want your thoughts on this very quickly. I'm sorry, Phil, I'm still
I will be quick.
But what about his partner?
Three cans deep? Three?
Well, I had 2 dragon soups before the show. Right, anyway. Right, but Anthony Stokes joins as well in the midst of this. So Daryl Murphy's joined. Samaras is flying. Sean Maloney's playing up front the first few games of the season as a striker. Then Gary Cooper gets his place. And then you've got Anthony Stokes added to the equation. And that season, in my mind, it was Stokes and Hooper. But it wasn't always the case that season. It was Stokes and Hooper. But how I think they two work together is seriously impressive. Because I think Stokes showed as an all-round player, not just an out-and-out goal scorer for Falkirk who got 25 goals. I think Stokes actually showed he might be a more all-round better footballer than even Hooper was.
Aye. I think if if Anthony Stokes could have got his head around together like the professional athlete and how a professional athlete lives and behaves, we'd have been talking about Gary.
He got the best out of him though.
I mean, what? I mean, Gary.
What manager got the best out of him?
He did. All the managers that took a punt on him, and they were many.
Roy Keane couldn't get the best out of him. So see when Roy Keane and Neil Lennon get pinned together, remember, Stevo, right? I'll come to you because I know you've got, right, you think about it. Lennon and Roy Keane are tarred with the same brush, old school, dinosaurs. Well, Roy Keane couldn't get a tune out of Anthony Stokes. Neil Lennon most definitely did.
I think with the one thing that I'd say with maybe Lennon and certain players, all right, we spoke about Samaras, who's a completely different entity, but see that kind of, what I would say is that kind of working class player, if you want to call it that, right? The likes of your Stokes of that, there's a relation there where he can kind of relate to them, I know what it's like, I've came for nothing, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff, and he can light a fire under the belly. So I think that maybe he understood the madness, if you want to use that term, because let's be honest, it's pretty clear that Lennon, as an individual, with a couple of screws loose, and his own demons and his own problems, and like, let's be current here. We've read the news about Anthony Stokes, right? So it's pretty clear that the madness remains, right? And I think probably at that time he was able to harness that madness and channel
letting him having his mad stuff, like going like, look, you're gonna get. See if you win at the weekend and you do everything, I'll give you 2 days off. So go get fucked.
It's like, do you know what, mate? I know you're going to go on an absolute bender. You're going to be steamboats, and we'll just deal with that. Right? Do you know what? And listen, as I said, I spoke earlier about Hooper, and the thing I'd noted against it was the whole Hooper-Stokes relationship. And as I say, I think I can't lose my own notes here. I think Hooper, as I say, was like 31 goal contributions overall and 36, right? Stokes was 20 and 40, 15 assists, 20 goals, 15 assists and 40 appearances.
What?
So you put that together.
Wait.
40. He had 40 appearances. 40 appearances, 20 goals in all comps, not in league.
All competition, yeah.
15 assists.
Fuck off.
35 goal contributions out of 40 games.
That's
fucking hell.
Form.
That is.
That's the best player in Scotland form.
That's madness. So if you put the two that together.
Aye. And he never even got a look in 2011 for Player of the Year. Wasn't even mentioned.
So if you put that together.
Oh.
So Stokes had 20 goals and 15 assists.
Yep.
And 40 appearances.
Listen, don't shoot. I'm sure there'll be some smart bastard. It'll kill my stats, right? But I
watch this, mate.
Yeah. I looked at season stats for a lot of the key players, and that's what came back as. So
brilliant.
That's insane.
That is some record, man.
And Stokes wasn't in this. Bear in mind, Marc Antoine Fortuné.
Listen, what I would say is I'll caveat that because I don't profess to be a stat or that, right? Because that's not what we do. I'm interested in the numbers, right? Oh, fuck off. Listen, see if I wanted to deliver to you, I'd do it so along the lines of this. Well, looking at the data, he played 800 minutes over the season, and he done like
just fundamentally doesn't tell the full story, does it?
No. So what I'm saying is no. I looked at I've done the basics that anybody can do. I've done the basic that anybody can do, and it seemed that he was the supplier. He was the guy putting it in to everybody else. Fuck off.
You fucked it now, mate.
No, but do you know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to throw it. See if I did your stat, I'm going to throw it in as a fun fact. Yes. There you go. I'm going to bore it right after.
Go on. That stat.
I said I'm not.
No, that stat about Stokes is very insightful.
Yep.
Because I think it's very important to look at the careers of some players that did not manage to replicate their form under anyone else but Lenny.
That's true.
Yep. And it has to be, you cannot just have your cake and eat it and say, when he was unprofessional, when he didn't demand these things. Well, how come some players elevated themselves to levels never seen in the other aspects of their career? And there was plenty. I'm going to give you another example of someone who didn't bevy, a teetotaler. Emilio Izaguirre under Brendan Rodgers. I know the leg break's a big thing, but fuck it, we'll just take that out to prove my point. Emilio Izaguirre under Neil Lennon was Bobby Carlos in this season.
Prime
He
without
was,
Carlos, aye.
he was the most exciting. You go for thinking Lee Naylor was a really good left back for a couple
That's
of years.
right, aye.
And I genuinely thought that. I then watched Izaguirre, Liam, for Celtic, and you always your memory goes to the 3-0 game, right? And I went, I've never seen a left back like this for us. I'm positive by January he was linked with Man United.
If he hadn't got injured when he did, I mean, that was a really bad injury he took. That was pure thuggery, right? That changed him, that changed him as a player, because up till that point, I think we would have been losing him to a big team. He was absolutely rapid. He was the best crosshair ball I'd seen at Celtic many, many a year, especially for that side. Crossing it with your left, and I think that contributed to a lot of your goals as well too. We didn't have any delivery for that side up until then. He was scheduled to go to Toronto FC, and we intercepted him through a tip-off by a Maurice Johnson.
I know Lenny would have lapped that up. Chris comes in saying it was a different Lenny. It's interesting that he says that, though.
I agree with that as well. I think Chris has got a good point there.
Different Lenny. But that doesn't mean certain players. Neil Lennon, I don't know.
You're the stats up on the screen.
There you go. Go fuck yourself, right?
No, I believe you, mate.
No, we did.
No, I believe you, mate. I just said it was
I've seen the comments coming in. I've seen that way. But fuck, I mean,
you've definitely proved you are Stevo.
Listen, Joe, what? Don't shoot me.
Stevo,
don't shoot me. Nah. The only numbers I'm doing is counting the amount of bottles I'm going to drink.
But the other thing that's interesting, Boise says that was a different Lenny. Guess whose numbers were better under Lenny than anyone else? Odson Edward, better numbers under Neil Lennon. It's true. No one likes to hear these things. Neil Lennon, points per game ratio in his second spell as Celtic manager, was better than Brendan Rodgers. Oh, no one wants to hear that though either. I know. Wow. It's insane, some of the stuff, because the reason I know this, there's a Twitter account, Siamese Boy. Folk think it's parody, but see when he did his facts of the day, I know there's an agenda, right? I'm positive it's Lennon's agent. I think it is, right? It's not Neil Lennon. Yeah. But you've got to also read some of them and go, wonder if anyone's ever thought of that. The highest points average by a Rangers manager was Gerrard in the season they were, the season that ended by COVID early. Rangers were averaging 2.39 points a game that season, and they were 11 points behind us.
Okay, that's interesting.
2.39. So it's mental, some of the stats. But agreed, it went Pete Tong. Of course it did. But this is first time Lennon. I think you look at the likes of Izaguirre who we're talking about, and you're going, no one's heard of him. And suddenly the football we're playing, I thought it was. I loved it. I thought it was rock and roll football film, man.
Oh, it was.
We had a great delivery. And then you added in Matthews to that mix.
Oh yeah, Adam Matthews comes in next season. That's right. Aye, we did with some good delivery from the fullback areas without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, well. Oh yes, we're talking about the games, the many hundreds of games we played the Rangers that season. The final two games that we played against them out of the best of seven series we had, weren't they the best because we lost the League Cup final to them. Where Vladimir Weiss had his one crowning moment in a Rangers shot where he took a quick free kick that led to Jelavic scoring the winner. I was at Hampden that day, first cup final I'd been to in person. I was in line with the goal line at the Celtic end as that ball hit the post and it rolled away from the post, but the spin on it, as Izaguirre charges in for that ball, you think he's going to clear it. It suddenly takes a really weird turn and spins into the net. We obviously lose the League Cup final after getting, turning the tide against them, but we lost against. Jelavic scored the winner that day. They beat us to win. But Vladdy Weiss takes a quick free kick on the halfway line, plays it in, and Weiss puts it past Fraser Forster. It hits the post, rolls along the goal line, and just sort of spins into the net at the back post. And then the final league game at iBrooks, we go there and we draw 0-0. But crucially, George's Samaras missed a penalty on the day. But at the end of the day, when it was full time, after drawing 0-0, we were 1 point behind with a game in hand with 4 games to go. So it was still advantage Celtic, even though people say you'd rather have points on the board than games in hand. But the game in hand was Inverness Cali Thistle away from home. I know we've had some problems with Inverness in the past, but this Celtic team's absolutely steamrolling folk now. We'll have no problems there, but we'll get to that in a wee while because there's something else that happened during the title run-in that we need to address, because sadly, what we saw in the spring of 2011 is unprecedented. And again, you talk about things that have happened to Celtic, like the George Cadet registration, the Dougie McDonald incident, the Hugh Dallas one. Has any Rangers manager ever had bombs and bullets sent to him in the post? Answers on a postcard, please. Because that ain't happened. That's something that's happened to us. Because, Celtic have got all the momentum, they're heading towards the title. It looks like they might actually do it. This isn't sitting well with certain folk in Northern Ireland and West Central Scotland of let's say, Lennon's always been a target due to his religion and what team he follows. He got it as a player, had to retire for international football. Now he's back as Celtic manager and they're heading towards the title. This Celtic team's got a lot of momentum. And suddenly we wake up to the news in April of 2011 that nail bombs, homemade nail bombs have been sent to Neil Lennon and a couple of other high-profile people connected with Celtic, like Paul McBride, QC. Shocking news. A dark day for Scottish football. It resulted in Neil Lennon having 24-hour security around him. There's images of him leaving the training ground with a police escort. He was under constant surveillance. And then, just to top off, Celtic still motored on through it. I can remember the fixture right after the initial nail bomb stuff. We went down to Rugby Park and tanked Kilmarnock 4-0. So it was kind of like in the face of adversity, you're no slowing us down. But in the second last game of the season at Tynecastle, we beat them 3-0. And a fan jumped over the advertising boards and attacked Neil Lennon. This game was live on Sky Sports. He threw a punch at Lennon, got wrestled to the ground. I think Alan Thompson goes for him, if I remember right. But this boy as well. Aye. Does he not get away with it? See when he goes to the court a few months later?
Let's call the Tynecastle game that he brings it on himself.
Yes, that was the narrative that was pushed.
That, Liam, is when this term became the deflection of your MSM. We're meant to rely on for unbiased journalism, etc. It was then, does he bring it on himself though, Neil Lennon? Did Neil Lennon bring that on himself?
I mean, he was looking particularly fiendish and gingery that day, I don't think anything else. He was smiling in a provocative manner. He celebrated maybe a wee bit too much,
Right.
How do you bring that stuff on yourself? That's proper racist garbage when people spout that shit. He brings it on himself. Why? Because he's confident. Why? Because he's celebrating success. So I get to fuck with that stuff, man.
He hates his rivals. That's okay.
By the way, the referee's first job was to Scott Brown was going to run over and the referee blocked him and grabbed him. It's like that guy. So he got done for what? It was a sectarian offence, but they couldn't approve that, so they didn't stick any charges on it. And it's like, what country are we living in? There's television evidence of him attacking him, but they couldn't prove that it was a sectarian attack.
Has the country moved on, Liam? Has this country moved on when Kyle Lafferty, the comments about his manager, for the longest given ban ever for an SPFL player, 10 games he's been banned for calling someone a Fenian bastard, right? That's what he's called them.
Yeah.
Right, it's on video. Kyle Lafferty is banned for 10 games. What's the reaction in the media?
Oh, he can't wait to get back. He's busting to play against Celtic.
Jumps outside the ground. Oh, he'll be a big weapon for them. No, he comes back under a cloud of, he comes back under a cloud of, disgrace and things like that. If it had been a racist comment, let's be clear.
Well,
but it is a racist comment. That's the thing I don't get.
I think Tonev also got 8 or 10 games that basically finished his career at Celtic.
Yep.
On what was meant to be a racist comment, but never ever proven. Nobody heard it. We took the word of
Shea Logan,
who ended up character being somewhat suspect as well. He was never get away from talking about Scott Brown and Celtic. He wanted to be a bogeyman. And I really think Tony have got stitched up. I mean, I wasn't there. Nobody's ever heard that, but the SFA went, why would he lie? The same reason when we ask the same thing, we're paranoid. Why would we lie? Why would I lie? Oh, because you're trying to get an unfair. You want to be, you want conspiracy theories and all that. I mean, you're just greeting, because you don't get a referee decision. No.
The thing is with this, it became a situation, Phil, where a fan going on the pitch with Lennon seemed a crescendo.
Aye.
The crescendo of a build-up. Now, see, when a song builds up, reach a crescendo. This build-up had been going on so long, that almost when it reaches crescendo, you ain't surprised because you're part of the music. You're like, we knew we were getting here. And therefore, the actual impact it has isn't, for some mental reason, looked at as going, a football manager, because forget Celtic, has been attacked in his dugout by a fan. A diving jump. And by the way, do you know the one thing I would say? Don't get involved. Leave Johan, leave Alan Thompson, and leave Neil Lennon to fucking deal with him. That'd have been fun. That'd have been fun. We'll see. We'll see who comes. We'll see who's flying about then. He would have been flying about again. There's going to be thrown about like an idiot. What happens at this point is the media has to find a reason to deflect this all being sectarian hate. Sadly, it comes down on your Clyde ones, your sports sounds. Is one question we do need to ask is: has Neil Lennon brought this on himself this year? Oh wow!
Oh, see, Monty's put up there the name of the guy. It was John Wilson, but sensationally, John Wilson. He goes to Edinburgh Sheriff Court later in the year, and as you say, he was cleared of any sectarian field attack, even though it clearly is, and it was on Sky Television cameras for the whole nation and probably outside of the UK to see. But he was charged on a breach of the peace for entering the park, which got him 8 months. But they couldn't clear him, they couldn't charge him on a sectarian field attack. And then it's like, what the fuck do you think he was attacking them for? It's Hearts as well, who are basically the junior version of their big cousins in Govan. And here's another thing. See, in the morning after the Hearts attack at Tynecastle, a bullet was sent to Celtic Park in the post addressed to Neil Lennon. So it didn't even end there. The bullet came to Celtic Park the day after the attack at Tynecastle. Just days before the final game of the season.
It's a terrifying imagery, that. It's a terrifying imagery, that. And the thing is, as well, there's two sides to this as well. Sorry, Steve, on you go.
No, I was just saying it's bad. Listen, to say that, I did jump out there for a second. Do you know what? I can hear it all anyway. In terms of what happens, listen, this is it's a dark and unsavoury side of Scottish football that we don't want to see. Kind of ironically, the Sky Sports and the media and what have you, they almost thrive on this animosity and this kind of, visceral, hate and anger and violence, if you want to call it that, is a big selling point. Much like you'll see in some of these games, like Brazil and Argentina and stuff. It's a big thing. It shouldn't be celebrated as being a selling point or whatever. In terms of the guy jumping on the park, I'd be lying if I said I knew the ins and outs here. I can recall it, I looked at the notes and stuff, but I know that the guy jumped in the park, and I know, as you said, that he obviously was proven to not be sectarian. All I would say on that is I don't know. I don't know what came out yet, but it's probably quite easy to disprove these things if there's not a direct
I agree with that
connotation. Okay. So listen, we can sit there and say why, because he's Neil Lennon and this and that, right? But it's like if you want to say something, say for example, racist, it's pretty black and white if you say you're such and such to someone, right? But if you just attack them and they're of a different race or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're racist. I agree with that. So that's probably the route that they went down, to be honest. As I say, that's fair. That's me just being balanced and looking at it.
I think you're right.
It's a disgusting situation that's happened, but it's, to say it's a disgrace that they got off with it for that terms is it would be lying to yourself, because unless there's evidence, we live in a justice system where it's based on proof. So you can't charge someone for a sectarian or racist or certain offence if there's nothing to actually do it. He maybe just doesn't like Neil Lennon and attacks him. So,
and there's a strong argument. So let's drop that then. I think it's fair to let's drop it and let's go the other side, the positivity. You tell me another guy who sticks in that job like Neil fucking Lennon did then.
No,
that's the best
powers through.
Because forget what the undertones are, because you're absolutely right in what you're saying. We have our absolute, and let's be honest, 99.9% convictions of our thought process as to why. But it's not been proven. So we also need to be very careful when you talk about something that's not been proven as being factual. You can't do that in life. But what we can do is, a guy's been assaulted doing his job in the dugout at the side of the park, and guess what he decides to do? Carry on as Celtic manager because he loves this club. And I think that's a triumph of Neil Lennon's attitude towards winning in life and not letting anything get him down. Secondly, his love for our football club. And do you know what I think? That deserves all the respect.
I think a lesser person gives up. Certainly I can't think of any manager in any other. I dare say if you went to South America, that is maybe it's more common, but we don't hear about it, right? But in our realms, British football, I've never heard of such madness and seen a guy being subjected to it. And let's be honest, if you want to come back to the sectarian things and that, from when he signed for Celtic as a player, it was more overt then. What people were saying
from international football, mate.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. But it was more overt in terms of being anti-Catholic or sectarian. It was very overt. It was very obvious.
But remember then, that's a good point. But remember then, it also drove Lennon 6 months into his Celtic career as captain of Northern Ireland, Stevo. He retired from international football.
Yeah, that's true.
Such was the abuse he was getting. Now, to then keep coming back for more, that's not a guy who's sick or twisted in the head. That's a guy whose love for our club came first. It always came first. And by the way, a guy who backed himself that if I'm involved, I'm convinced we'll do better than what we will if I'm not.
Yeah.
That came back to bite him on the arse in his final season. But I'll tell you this, it's the same courage of his convictions he had in the good years he had at Celtic as well. And I don't know how you can take that out of someone. You can't just pick and choose when it's okay, Liam, to be, I don't mind. See, no matter how much shite I'm getting, I'll keep going for Celtic. And see, when all the Celtic fans giving him shite, he took the same attitude he had that he'd had a million other times in his career at Celtic and went, I don't care how tight I'm getting it, I'm going to get us through this. And he backed himself because he's a winner. And do you know what? Yes, it didn't work that final season. Yes, I was very vocal in saying, you need to understand where to call it. But you know what? See, show me anyone who walks away from a challenge, who walks away before getting beat, and I'll show you a loser. Right? And that's just not got that in him. He needed save from himself in his final season. And folk forget that, attributing the blame to a guy like Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon, who, against all the adversity we're talking about in one season, for God's sake, his first ever season as a manager, let alone everything else that's happened prior as a player and afterwards in his managerial career. And yet we want to focus on one season where results weren't going his way. Oh, that should chase him out the door. Well, look what didn't chase him out the door before. He needed save from himself, Liam.
How much stock do you think that bottom, though? See, in terms of the amount of nonsense they put up over the years, player, manager, they got to the stage that when we got to his last season, that bottom stock.
I think anybody else in that last season would have been literally thrown out the door. That stock, I think, was what gave Neil Lennon, there was a sense of compassion of what this guy had went through and all that as well. But as Russell said, it also built into his personality as well. That same divisiveness, that same way that he looks at diversity, that showed up when we wanted rid of him as well. He became cocky and confident and arrogant. Take me and
all those traits we loved though when it was the other times,
I know.
He hadn't changed. He hadn't changed, Liam.
And he's still no changed. He's still no changed. He's still arrogant. He's still that. But the same things, those were some of the qualities that made when we were this season, those were the qualities that made him shine. Those are the qualities that made him better than Walter, better than Ali, all that crap, you know?
Yep.
Only one Neil Lennon.
Aye. The thing is,
I just think there's such a valid point, Phil, to be made here, that if you want a guy to have a character transplant, right, and because the season means more to you, then that ain't going to happen after 18 years involved at the club. With unprecedented success. If you look at his trophy haul in the years he's been involved at Celtic, it's a joke. A joke. 2 out of those 3 years Walter Smith won the trophy, he wasn't involved at Celtic. Do you know what I mean? 8 games at the end of the season as caretaker in the second one. Come on. Right? That's not on his watch. The year before that, he was at Wycombe Wanderers and Nottingham Forest and Wycombe Wanderers.
Yep.
Right? When he's there, we win. And of course, he was never going to lose that exact belief. That's what had driven him when the opposition was from the actual opposition. So when the opposition came from within our fan base, he adopted the exact same attitude he'd always had. That decision is meant for the money men, right? For them to take a guy out the equation and make a business, cold-hearted, ruthless decision that goes, if we want any chance of winning the 10 in October, November, he needs removed and we need to replace him. They didn't have the courage or the convictions to do so, Phil. That is the truth. Don't look to Neil Lennon to be resigning. That ain't in his makeup. And if he'd resigned at any other, see if he'd walked away when he lost his Northern Ireland captaincy in his first season at Celtic, we'd all call him a shite bag. If he'd walked away with the bullets in the post, we'd went, you deserted us when we were on the verge of winning the league that year. He didn't, right?
He didn't.
So don't expect him to suddenly become a completely different person. That point in the 10 in a row season, I feel the decision should have been took out his hands.
Yeah, of course.
That would have been fair.
It should have been. It should have been. But I'm going to double down on that and say, see, as much as listen, I'm not here to put in the Neil Lennon party because it's been proven enough times tonight why he should be celebrated. But what I'm saying is it gets to a point where yes, the decision should be taken out of his hands. Yep. But for sentiment or whatever reasons, they didn't want to do it. But equally as well, see someone who's a fan that knows what it means, who knows what that season means, and you can always, bet on yourself and believe you can do it. Surely there must have been in his head that point where he went, I wouldn't want this as a Celtic fan. If I remove myself from that situation, I'll look at it, and whether it's a Billy McNeil or Paul McStay or whatever that's the manager, and I respect him, whatever, I take a step back and I can say, I've got to walk away from this.
Stevo, he's not looking at examples of other people.
My point is if he came out and says, as a manager at the time, as a Celtic fan, I know how you are feeling and I don't want to see the team lose. And this is why I'm doing it. Nobody would have thought he's a shite bag.
This is the first time in 20 years he would have been he'd have been the reason we failed. Yet he's got all these years where he's like, no, we win when I'm involved. I can still turn this round. He was deluded maybe at one point, but there's also so many years
stayed for
that
headlines of 10 in a row.
Delusion.
He did.
I disagree with the headline stuff. I think it's in his absolute mindset that when he's involved, we will win. This will be overturned. Even when the facts are denying it. Come on, Lenny. Ain't going to happen. He's not seen that. He's blinkered. There is people there who employ managers that employed Brendan Rodgers before him, so no good manager when they see one. And they went for them. They went for the emotional appointment. They went for a cheap option. And that decision had to be rectified far earlier than it was. And you cannot expect Neil Lennon to suddenly become someone who's philosophical and goes, do you know what? Maybe I would step. He was never like that. He never. It wasn't in him, Stevo, to be like that. And maybe it's a character defect. That's a different debate. But at no point when he was hired in the first place did they think he'll resign for this the first time he's up against the challenge. He's not capable of it. He's no. That's just not him. And maybe is it a slight on him?
As I say, maybe some folks.
He's not against Celtic though when he's doing it. He's doing it because he thinks, put all your trust in me. I will still save this. Even if it's 30 points, he would have said, Is it mathematically impossible yet? That's just who he is. Do you know what I mean?
No, listen, it's maybe been for some harsh, and I get that. But as I say, I always call myself a realist, and I believe no matter how much respect, much like you see, for example, for large periods of my life, the name I had in the back of the was Lennon 18. Loved the guy, thought he was brilliant, right? But I can remove myself from that sentimentality and look at it factually, and I just feel that it got to a stage where, yes, the decision should have been taken out of his hands, but ultimately, sometimes against our better judgment and against who we are and what we think we are and what we believe, we have to look and live in the real world, and we need to do what's better for the greater good. And I think nobody was disrespected, nobody was thought any less of Neil Lennon to hold his hands up and know that it went too far.
Neil Lennon. That's no Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon's like one of his Gracie's brothers. Sorry, Russell. Neil Lennon's like one of Gracie's in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Gracie's don't tap. You need the referee or the somebody to throw the towel in. They don't be the one. He's never ever been defeated, and so you need somebody else to just put the arm around his shoulder and say, "Come on, son, it's not your day. I'm taking you out the game." Whatever. Yes. And he needed that armour, and we didn't have that maturity at Celtic Park. Do you
know what? Do you know whose stubbornness I blame? Peter Lowell's stubbornness, because he was determined to be proved right that the arrogance of his appointment at Lennon would come good, and they didn't have the bollocks, Stevo, to go.
So do you know? It's obviously not. It's obviously. This is obviously spiraled out to a non-2010-11 season conversation. But just out of curiosity, then, what would have been the reaction had the board done what they should have done and relieved them of his duties at probably about
October, November,
right?
I think it would have went down very well. I think it would have went.
But what we mean is would have been sympathy for Neil Lennon.
Yes, the right way. I think everyone would have went, "Oh my God, feel shite for him." But we've still got a chance here, by the way. We've still got a chance here. I think it would have been. It would have been just. I think it would have been. I think the board showed. They just showed defiance and stubbornness, because see what you need to remember is, see when he was appointed not first time round, like in the Showers appointment. See when he was given that appointment, it was criticised massively, Stevo, and they did not like being criticised at that time. And in my opinion is, they doubled down, and they went, "Nah, we'll be proved right still," and they let it play out just too long. They let it play out too long. Ruthless decisions. Going, and it needed to. He was never going to resign. I'm sorry. Like, you need to remember the guy you're appointing and the personality. You can't expect him to suddenly go, "I'm actually feeling philosophical today, guys. I think someone else should do the job." That ain't Neil Lennon. And you know that the day you buy that product, the day you hire that product, that is part of the package. And it's unfair to expect him then to do that. I think that decision could have been took out. And you know what? My hunch is they knew as well. They wanted to be proven right more than Neil Lennon wanted to be proven right. Neil Lennon didn't think he was proving anything right. Neil Lennon just still, to the last day he was there, thought, "I'll win this league still." It's just, that's his psyche. That's who he is. That's a winning mentality. But the board guys probably knew earlier, he ain't going to win this. But we'll look weak if we sack him, because remember, they didn't want us to appoint him. They fucked us off. They didn't want to bow to fan pressure either. That is, there's a bit of that too, which I get to a point, because I think sometimes it's so unsavory, and it gets so fucking nasty. Some of the, it's okay to disagree with the board. Do it a wee bit constructively. And it wasn't constructive. It was just hate. And I think the board, they went, barriers up, fuck them. You know what I mean? And I think there's a bit of that. I mean, hopefully we'll never go back to that. Phil, what season are we talking about?
2010-11. To be fair, though, this is in one of the reasons I wanted to do this season is, again, it can highlight what we've seen in the last few years on Twitter, where a certain generation of fan are very much, they only know Lennon essentially for what happened in the last 3 or 4 years. And it's like, look at what he went through in 2010-11. As I said right at the very start of this segment, it was like, name me a Rangers manager that got bullets and bombs sent him in the post. Name me a manager of any other club in Scotland that had that. It's unprecedented, and it's like this guy went through a shit ton as a player and as a manager. And why? Because he wanted to stop him from winning the league, essentially. They could see this Celtic team had something special going, and they had to throw everything at him. And some of their fans obviously got that desperate that they resorted to that. So you're getting bullets sent to you in the fucking post, attacked on the sideline where you're trying to do your job.
He also was like, he was also like that. By the way, I'm about to beat the best ever club football team in the world in 2 years' time with a painter and decorator as my assistant manager. He's called Gary Parker.
My tail to the question. Your guess is as good as mine, Ryan. I think we're at the end of this season. We're on the home straight now, I do believe. Because after the palaver of the bombs and the bullets and the attacks to the sideline, we've still got a fucking title, a double potentially to go and win. Sadly for Celtic, and this wouldn't be the first time this happened, Terry Butcher came along and fucking butchered their title challenge. Fucking bastards. So he done it to us
not for the first time.
Neil's last season, and done it again. Because that game in hand against Inverness, I said, what could possibly go wrong? Sadly, Celtic threw it away there. I mean, there was a few snidey results along the way, but with 2 games to go, we had a game in hand arranged, and yes, Inverness, who weren't even a top 6 side, we had to play them after the split because just the way the fixtures fell due to getting postponed and rearranged and so on. We ended up going up there, we lost 3-2. It then meant we 2-3 games to go. Rangers were a point ahead. All we could do was win and just hope for the best. But something, of course, interesting, after we did lose the league, we beat Motherwell 4-0 on the last day of the season. As you said right at the top of the show, Russell, much like the Tommy Burns second season for him, there was a real hope and spirit around the fans. Like the team were applauded. And of course, Neil Lennon gives the amazing speech where, because a lot of fans thought, he will leave at the end of the season. There were fans who thought, how can he go through this? He's going to walk away. But he gave that speech where he said, this isn't the end, this is just the beginning. And being at Celtic Park that day, that was one of those, the hairs stand up on your arm moment. And you're like, fucking yes. It pure galvanised the fans because our priority every year is to win the league. We didn't win the league. So in normal circumstances, I've deemed a failure. But there was something different about this. I just remember this team was on the right track.
I just remember thinking, is he holding that microphone wearing gloves?
The little gloves were out again. But no, that line is not the end. It's just the beginning. It really galvanised the fans. And obviously, we went into the cup final against Motherwell. And in a rain-soaked Hampden where it didn't stop raining all day. It was fucking miserable in terms of the weather, but not a miserable day in terms of the result because we beat them 3-0. Ki-Sung Young scores an absolute raspberry a goal. Stephen Craigan bundled one into his own net, which is always funny to see. And Charlie Mulgrew nearly bust the net with a free kick. 3-0, Neil Lennon's first trophy. But I say when you
there's another player, Phil.
Aye.
Charlie Mulgrew.
You
got the best of him.
Oh, the next season, by the way, which we've covered already.
Turns out left centre half in that.
Initially inserted at left back. Wild.
He left us, didn't he? As left back under Strachan.
He did.
He went to Wolves. It was Strachan because Lee Naylor, they exchanged for Neil there. And Lenny's obviously came back to the club and went, what the fuck's Mulgrew? He was brilliant. I'll bring him straight back. And he got him dancing to a tune, by the way, that again you never seen under anyone else. Mulgrew peak was left back and left centre half. Remember Lennon moulded him into that? A left centre half.
Yep.
Again,
I say the next season after this one, Mulgrew wins Player of the Year. He wins one of the Player of the Year awards, I'm pretty sure.
I see Charlie Mulgrew managing Celtic.
I can see him involved in the coaching somewhere. Maybe not manager, but I can see him involved in the coaching staff.
I think he'll be Dundee United manager within the next 12
months.
You
just made that up.
But, see, imagine that one quote. See, that'd be a nobody cares moment if he was Celtic manager and said that. Eh? Like, you're linked with Chogwee Sung. You just made that up.
Remember we were talking last week, Liam, did you say something about Scott Brown? What was it? We were talking about Scott Brown being Celtic manager, no, Johnny Hayes being his
assistant.
Charlie Mulgrew would easily be on that coaching team. Easily.
Have you noticed he went to the coaching staff at Dundee United and all the results have upturned since?
Okay.
Right. So he became first team coach. And since he's became that, Dundee United's results have literally completely transformed, and he's a bigger personality than Liam Fox. He'll end up their manager in the next 12 months. He's got the swagger. I could see him being a Celtic manager. That's a mental calling. Charlie Mulgrew in charge of Celtic. But you know what? Why not? I'd rather. We need a handsome manager.
Do you know he moved to Canada when he was a teenager? He spent a couple of years in Canada, in St. Catharines, because there was a trivia question to come out about Celtic players that played hockey. Charlie Mulgrew is one of them.
Wow.
He lived in St. Catharines for 2 years as a teenager and then went back to Scotland, played football.
Okay. By Mulgrew. I mean, I like Mulgrew in general. I thought he was a great player for us. It was under Lennon. The next season in particular, he's absolutely fantastic. I liked Mulgrew, by the way. He's a character. He's got character as well. You know, he isn't just a generic footballer 101, but he nearly busts the net at Hampden with that free kick. Phenomenal. But yes, Celtic win the Scottish Cup. Lennon picks up his first trophy. And as I say, compared to, say, Neil's last season where we got the Scottish Cup after narrowly missing out in the league, and it did feel like a bit of a damn script. There was something about this. The mood around the camp at Celtic was, we're on the right track. And I say that speech by Lennon on the last league game of the season was brilliant. I say he got the hair stand up naked. Everyone was galvanised by it. Obviously, that season, some of the football we played, we probably deserved more than we got. But as they always say, folks, good things come to those who wait. And if Celtic would just wait another 12 months, something very good was round the corner. League champions and the demise, of course, of our good pals across the city. We've already covered the 2011-12 season in Bustalgia. You should check that episode out as well. But yeah, this has been, as I said, it was a 3-hour episode. And it was a 3-hour episode. And I knew it would be.
Hit me with a stupid question.
Oh, stupid question. Yeah, let's go back. Because for the 73 who are watching right now, and thanks for sticking with us. I mean, it's after midnight.
Cheers for sticking. Fucking madness.
Yeah. If you came in late, there was, of course, the usual trivia question at the start where I talked about the...
Turn the comments off, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes, comments off.
My comments are off.
Dudu the Hand came into Celtic folklore in this season. He became the go-to agent.
I've got 7.
Yeah, so I've got here 10 players that Dudu the Hand had a hand in signing over the years. So, yeah, I'm just looking for the names of any players.
Right, you go with your 2, Stevie. Stevo.
Rami Gershon.
Yes.
Yeah, Gershon, yep, he's one of them. Yep.
Mohamed El Kaddouri.
Oh, I didn't have him.
El Kaddouri isn't one, but
no.
I think
I
think the name you've got.
I've got some others, but that's
you're on the right track.
El Hamed.
El
Hamed.
Come
on, guys. What about Berim Kayal?
Kayal, yep.
What about Ife Ambrose?
Ambrose, correct.
What about Leo Labada?
Yeah, Leo Labada's the most.
What about Sorrow? What about Beaton?
Yep.
No, I'm out.
Yeah, the last 3. The last 3 are the tricky ones. There's one where I
had a Bada and I had Kial.
No, that was a good rerun though. I went on there, Phil. I actually felt a bit of adrenaline there. I wish Jonathan was on just so I could rub it right in his face how many fucking answers I got right there, the wee shite.
But the other 3 that are left are the tricky ones, because again, I had no idea he represented them. But there is, for 2 of them, there's photographic evidence on Google of him turning up at Celtic Park with them. And the other one is one that people claim he was an agent because this guy had a spell in Israel football for the same team that Ife Ambrose played for. And they're convinced that the team that Ambrose played for in Israel was a team called Ashdod. There you go, if that helps in any way. But we signed somebody under Ronnie who played for them as well. And I say, I'm
so have the other 3 actually played in the first team?
Yeah, they have, yeah.
John Ingeberge?
No, not John Ingeberge. No, it's a shout. Right. Would it surprise me to tell you, Russell? Would it surprise you that if I said that Patrick McLaughlin said one of the right answers? No, Kouassi, no.
Okay. I'm thinking it was a left back.
The 3 that are left are all.
I'm just trying to think.
Strikers.
All the 3 that are left. Yep.
Skepovic.
Yes. Skepovic, apparently, after the spell at Ashdod in Israel, his agent that brought him to Celtic is a the bold Dudu Dahan.
That's a striker.
Now, that's the one I couldn't get into.
Two more strikers, lads.
But the other two, there is photographic evidence.
Yeah, Miku.
No, not Miku. No.
Good shout. Good shout. Hey, I know the one.
Lassad.
Lassad.
Not Lassad. No.
Oh, I was with you, Stevo, on that one.
Kamala.
No.
Oh, he was.
Kamala's an interesting one. Aye.
Bangura.
Bangura's not Bangura. I said, get a decent shout. You're in the right region, I think, in terms of
He's a clue. Are they shite?
Strikers. He said, aye, they barely play.
No, striker.
them?
Are they shite?
Yes, they are. Oh my God. One of them was signed by Lenny. The other one was signed by Ronnie.
Capo.
No, not Capo. He was a midfielder. The two.
He's a midfielder. Winger. Sorry, my bad.
Strikers. Aye.
Oh, I've got it. Brojek.
No, not Brojek. How many bang average strikers did we sign in the 2010s, man?
Some terrible ones.
So many bad ones.
Oh. I know I've got a couple of mates that are brilliant at this shit. They'll be shouting at me.
Scott Howe says he doesn't know the question. The question is all the players that Dudu Dahan has basically had a hand in getting to Celtic. There are 10 of them. So far, the boys have got 8.
No idea.
Strikers. One signed by Lenny, one signed by Ronnie.
Chifty?
No, Chifty Van Hooijdonk was his agent. Pierre Van Hooijdonk was his agent.
That's right, so he was.
Yep. The right answers are coming in the comments. People are starting to get them now.
Give us a season.
He says Ronnie's 2 years, so it's 15, 16 or 14, 15.
Mm-hmm. Lenny's first time or his second time?
His first time. His first era. I think he's went through every bang average striker from that era apart from these two.
Fuck.
Amido Baldi.
Yes! Amido Baldi is one of them. Aye. Apparently, the Dudu the hand was behind that one as well.
Well done.
Yeah. There you go. So the final one, I had no idea till I saw the picture on Google, and it's right there. He's in the Celtic trophy room wearing with the shirt up, and he's got like a tweet above it saying that, this player signs, and he also named his agency essentially, and it's like, I can't believe he was his agent. And it makes all the sense in the world when
is he famous? Is he quite a well-known one?
Yeah, I would say so. Notoriety, definitely. Like people like, I can't believe we signed him. Like fucking hell, what we do signing him?
Kazim Richards.
Yes, Colin Kazim Richards. And when you think about it, how Dudu Dahan's that go-to agent, like a plan B, and it's like that fucking Kazim Richards signing.
Right, you round up the show, Phil. I'm waiting for a pee. This was brilliant.
No worries.
Right, I'll see you in the afternoon.
Yep, the final 10 then was Berham Kayal, Rami Gershon, Leela Baden, Nir Beaton, Hatem Abdel Hamid, Effie Ambrose, Ismaili Soro, Colin Kazim Richards, Amido Baldi, Stefan Skepovic. There you go. Cheers, Dudu Dahan. You've got a sort of okay hit rate with a couple of the players there, but majority of them.
That's a good question. That's a tough one.
There you go. I also made it topical to the season we were
doing. He obviously needed that push because he just fired out about probably 6 between us would have worked out, but
you've not been on this show long. He's away for a victory wank.
But what an effort! Another 3-hour show after doing PMP last week, which went for 3 hours. This is another 3-hour show from the boys. To the 74 people that are still watching live at 10 minutes past 12 in the morning, thank you very much. Remember to smash that like button. Tomorrow, obviously, we'll be back for PMP. Russell says he might do a fan cam as well. I don't know. He's not yet to confirm or deny that one, but he says he might be doing it. But PMP will definitely happen for the semi-final against Kelly. Other than that, Stevo, have you enjoyed your first marathon run on Bustalgia?
Have I? It was an absolute pleasure. A pleasure.
You've been good, mate. You've been brilliant, man. Fantastic addition to the team. Welcome aboard. And as you now get your Bustalgia, you've now got over that hill now by getting that on your CV that you've done a Bustalgia episode. So fair play.
I probably will in future store more cans.
I've still got one bottle of beer left in my ice bucket here. My ice is all melted though, of course, but yeah, I've still got one left.
I just want to say a big shout out to brother Liam because he told us he's got something to do. And
I know,
by God,
Liam, you said before the show you had something on. I said, mate, if you need to run while we're still on the air, just let us know. But you've stuck it out, mate. So I'm sorry if I've.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I've been texted back and forwards. It got changed anyway. But my God, I watched my camera go from like beautiful lighting and all that to I'm looking like fucking Cousin Nick now. I'm seeing this, you know. I don't know how to adjust the light for these 3-hour marathons.
Yeah, I knew it'd be a really busy one tonight. I say there's a lot of discussion with the whole way and stuff, but yeah, that is that one now on the books, in the pocket and out of sight. That is it. 2010-11 is now done, so we will be heading off now. The bus is about to drive away, folks. I know some of you would like us to stay on even longer, but we can't. We really can't. It's after midnight. We need to go. But yeah, it's been a pleasure as always. And Bustalgia will be back next week. I haven't decided what next, but thanks for watching, and we shall catch you all later. Cheerio.
Cheers, Soups.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.